the PG&E massive power shutoffs beginning tonight. This is a very big story we're following for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly 800,000 customers across California are expected to lose power. That's because of dangerous fire conditions. So we're expecting an update from PG&E in just a few minutes. But first, here's what we know right now.
Take a look at this map. This is the area that in yellow that are going to lose their power tonight. That's going to have light shut off tomorrow. It's a massive area, as you're seeing. This is the biggest power shut off ever. And if you would like this map sent to your phone, all you have to do is text 916-321-3310, and we back with the link so you can let it for yourself. Also, we have the list impacted by this too on abc10.com.
And because if you text us, we'll get the latest information or continuously change. So you're going to want the latest updates. Just retext us if you need the latest. So what we do know right now, PG&E's website has been going down pretty frequently today, and that's because so many people are, of course, trying to get the latest information. PG&E says that they're trying to keep it up and running, but you can always come to abc10.com for the latest information. PG&E is, of course, going to be trying to get that back up and running, but you just don't know based on all those people. 800,000 customers is what they say, but we've also heard that that can be over 2 million people. Now, that's just customers, so anyone who lives in a household is considered a customer. Sometimes we forget about that when we're hearing these numbers. It's a lot more people than just that 800,000 customers.
Right, and businesses too. So a lot of people in local governments are telling those who live nearby an area that's going to be shut off to be mindful of that. Also know what areas are shut off. So really everyone right now watching on Facebook, YouTube, whatever you may be watching on, we really recommend you look nearby where you live of which areas will have power tonight and which areas will not, so that you're prepared if you have to go to work, if you have to, take the kids to school, whatever it may be, because again, those areas you're seeing shaded in yellow be shut off, according to PG&E. And the scope of this is 800,000 customers. So again, like Mike was just saying, customers means bills, really. That's what PG&E is looking at. So it's much more than 800,000, and that's spanning over 34 counties.
That's right. And as Monica was telling us earlier this evening, it has to do with that wind. It's changed a lot. It will change a lot over the course of this evening into tomorrow, and that's, of course, why PG&E is starting out. It's unpredictable at this point time, and we're as well. You can follow us as we tune into this press conference shortly on Facebook, YouTube, and of course, abc10.com. We'll also have the latest updates for on our app, so make sure you download that if you haven't already. A lot of people in short states of concern tonight. Their power could go out, but we're also hearing that some people are being encouraged to even conserve water. You just never know what something like this is going to do or how long it's going to be out. I think that's one thing people forget. When the power shutoff comes back on, it means that they have to go around, inspect all of those lines, make sure that people are safe in their homes, and that takes a really long time. They're saying, up to 5 days or even longer for some people.
This is a significant event, and it's the largest power shutoff PG&E has seen so far since doing these. Again, this is a live look at the news conference that's going to get underway here very shortly at the PG&E headquarters. We're going to be hearing from the Vice President of Asset and Risk Management. He's going to be talking about the impact of these power shutoffs, what it means for people moving forward, how long, answering some of those questions we've been hearing from a lot of you tonight. And I'm sure many of you still have those questions, so keep them coming. We'll definitely get back into those and answer those to the best of our ability. But again, we're going to go to this news conference here shortly once it actually gets started to give you the latest information you need to know.
In Madison, as you know, a lot of this is unprecedented because these public safety power shutoffs weren't a thing until recently, but PG&E had been encouraged by the courts to make sure that they did shut the power off in these wind-prone areas. Well, that event has presented itself, and now we're just trying to encourage everybody to make sure that they take the precautions that they have been putting out there. They're saying, make sure that you've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's. That includes making sure that you know how to open your garage door without power. Make sure that you have one light on in case that power does come back on. People who are needing to conserve water, there's things like filling up your bathtub, filling up any containers that you might have, and just making sure that you can get through for an extended period of time if and when your power does shut off.
Right. And just a personal story from my end, I was just in Mammoth this past weekend, and they also had a power shut off because of the high wind heightened risk for fires, and that's Edison, so that's Southern California, Central California, obviously. And just my personal experience was cash. I had no cash, no way to get gas, and that's a big thing that PG&E is saying. Make sure you have cash, make sure all your phones are charged, you have every possible charging station. Those ones that are USB powered, and then you can use those. Make sure all of those are charged, because again, we're not so sure how long these shutoffs are going to be for some of these areas in the 34 counties.
All right, and for anyone just joining us, we're standing by right now to get an update from PG&E. They're holding a press conference about what we can expect. At this point, what we know is that 800,000 customers' power could be shut off in the next coming days. That's actually more people than that number is really indicating. It could be over 2 million actual people. And so we're standing by to get the latest update. It looks like they're talking right now. We'll go there.
This program to bring you breaking news. PG&E is holding a press conference ahead of the unprecedented power shutoffs we've been talking about all day.
That's right. Nearly 800,000 customers across California are expected to lose power overnight. We'll listen in right now to the press conference.
Tragic events which profoundly affected our customers and all Californians. We know our most important responsibility is the safety of our customers and our communities, and we've made progress in the last 2 years to increase wildfire safety and preparedness. But we know there's more work ahead, and we're committed to doing it. So to cover safety, Aaron Garvey on our team is going to be the incident commander. We can help anybody here. We also have an AED here in the room, and if we need to contact security, we can get out if we need to. We will cross the street over here to Bechtel Plaza, and if we have an earthquake, please be aware of these lights, and we need to duck, cover, and hold. And if there's an active shooter situation, we will get out, hide out, and take out. I'm joined tonight by Sumit Singh, who's Vice President of our program, who oversight of our public program, as well as Evan Duffy, our senior meteorologist for the team. For those folks who are joining on the phone, we apologize. We cannot take questions via phone. We're going to do that for future. But you can call the media line to follow up with questions at 415-973-5930. We imagine this going about 30 minutes. Sumit and Evan are going to give some information, provide a briefing for you, and then we can take some questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Sumit.
Thank you, Keith, and good evening, and thank you so much for being here. I wanted to first start off by reinforcing what Keith mentioned. The reason why we are here is our utmost and foremost priority to ensure the continued safety of our customers, who are not just our customers, but they're our family members, our friends, our neighbors, and our communities. So what we want to get into is to be able to provide you with some insights on what we are forecasting in regards to the weather conditions, as well as the associated fire risk in a large part of our geographic service territory, both in the Sierra Foothills area, North Bay, East Bay, and a small pocket within the Kern Bakersfield area, and we will get into those specifics. And we're not the only ones who are tracking this adverse weather condition. This obviously has also been published by the National Weather Service, which we will also be discussing. And based on these forecasts and our meteorology team and our operations teams continue to monitor this weather. And we have been in that monitoring stage for the last several days. And since then, we have activated our Emergency Operations Center at PG&E, and we're staffing and have continued to staff that on a 24/7 basis. The reason why we're here is because of the widespread scale of this wind event. We're anticipating a public safety power shutoff to nearly 800,000 customers across portions of 34 northern, central, and coastal counties. Before I talk a little bit more about that, I would like to request Evan Duffy, who's one of our lead meteorologists, to walk you through some of the weather and the wind forecast and the adverse conditions that we're going to be experiencing. So with that, Evan, can you please join me up here?
Thank you, Steve. My name is Evan Duffy. I'm a senior meteorologist here at PG&E. I'd like to talk a little bit here about the weather and how we've monitored this over the past few days. Weather models have been very consistent in showing a very strong offshore wind event beginning tonight and lasting for parts of the territory through Friday. These strong, dry, gusty winds are going to be combined with low relative humidity levels, and they'll lead to some dangerous fire weather. Fuels are critically dry across the territory, and most of the area is looking at very receptive conditions for large fire growth. I'd like to work through the wind forecast for the territory. This is 10 a.m. on Wednesday. I'm going to go out hourly and show the progression of the event. You can see that already by 10 a.m. Wednesday, we'll have strong winds, northerly winds, across the Sacramento Valley, working into portions of central California. And as we move out in time into the afternoon on Wednesday, you can see those winds will strengthen and slowly begin to shift northeasterly until we get into the evening hours, where you'll see a change of where the strongest winds will be located, now in the Sierra and also in the North Bay. As we move on throughout the hours, we will see some shift as well further south, and you'll start to see some stronger winds developing in the Bay Area proper outside of the North Bay as well. Overall, these winds will continue into Thursday, and you'll see at times these winds remain gusty and breezy all the way through Friday morning. There will also, off the edge of this map, be another area of reverse Santa Ana winds in Kern and Bakersfield area coming off of the Tehachapi's, and this period will also be critical for fire weather for those areas as well. The National Weather Service has issued extensive red flag warnings, and the Northern California Geographic Area Coordination Center considers this a high-risk situation. By all metrics, this is forecast to be the strongest offshore wind event since October 2017. Conditions being forecast historically have led to catastrophic wildfires, and PG&E Meteorology is actively monitoring weather for this situation on the clock. Sumit?
Thank you, Evan. So based on the latest weather forecast that Evan just shared, we anticipate the period of the peak winds will occur beginning early Wednesday morning and will last through Thursday midday, as Evan just walked us through the wind forecast models on the screen. In addition, we are also actively monitoring the reverse effect of the potential Santa Ana wind events in the Tehachapi area, and that could impact our customers in the Bakersfield and the Kern County area, and that's anticipated at the moment as early as Thursday, lasting to Friday morning. It's also important to remember that some of our customers may experience a power shutoff even though the weather conditions in their specific location are not extreme. And the reason why this happens is because of the interconnected nature of our electrical grid and the power lines working together to provide electricity through cities, counties, and regions. We're working directly with state and local agencies to help prepare our customers and the public for the safety event. As part of our Emergency Operations Center, we follow an incident command structure, and as part of that incident command structure, we also have representatives from our California State Emergency Center, Cal OES, the State Fire Department, as well as members of our California Public Utility Commission within our emergency center. We want our customers to be aware that based on the large number of outages, it could fully restore power after the weather passes and the safety inspections can begin. The first step that we take as part of restoration after such an adverse event is to inspect every inch of our overhead electrical asset base to ensure there's no damage. If there is damage, we identify the location of that damage, what that is, bring in qualified personnel to be able to safely do the repairs, and then continue with the restoration process. We very much understand the inconvenience and difficulties such a power outage would cause, and we do not take or make this decision lightly. This decision, as I started our discussion here, is really focused on ensuring that we're continuing to maintain the safety of our customers and our communities. We implement the public safety power shutoff as a last resort, and we really appreciate our customers, our community's patience as we continue to work hand in hand, in unison, as one community to face this unprecedented wildfire risk that our state and our service territory is facing related to wildfires. So with that, I'm going to request Keith to join me back up here. We can move into the Q&A portion of our discussion.
So thank you, everyone. So I know lots of people have their microphones up here. I'm going to try to do the mic from here. So if you have a question, raise your hand. We'll get a mic runner to you. We need a mic runner. Okay, so Michelle, come over here. Start over here with Christian. Start from the left. We'll sweep right, and we'll go from there. So Christian, go ahead.
Sure. Christian Cat from KTVU. Two questions. One, we've heard of a lot of people having difficulty getting information about whether they're going to be impacted. How are you recommending people find out if they're going to be impacted? Is the website up, running, and available to people? And also, when can they expect the shutoff to begin?
So let me take...
You want to do the second part first?
Yeah, let me do the second one. So we anticipate that the shutoffs would begin starting at midnight today up until about, and that's going to be a portion of the 800,000 customers. That's about 500,000 customers. And then there's another de-energization sequence that we would initiate at noon tomorrow to last until about 1700 or 5 p.m. So it's basically done as part of our operational execution process. Given the complexity of the de-energization sequence, we are carefully monitoring and implementing every single step to ensure the continued integrity of the grid as we are doing this. So that's really what we anticipate for the events from early Wednesday to midday Thursday. And then the de-energization sequence for the Kern County would likely start to occur tomorrow evening.
In regards to the website, we know that there's been some issues with that this morning and this afternoon. We did take the precaution yesterday, the size of our data, to be able to accept all the people that were coming to the website. We still have had very slow response on the website. We've had about 7 or 8 times the normal traffic to our website. Again, we apologize for that. We've also taken information and posted that on our social channels. We've just posted 34 different maps for each county on different channels to reach out to folks. So please check our Twitter handle at PG&E. We're also working through the night to make sure that the website's addressed so that people can get that information. JD?
Are you guys de-energizing any high voltage transmission lines? And also, do you have any sense of roughly how many people could be affected, not just the customer accounts?
Thank you for that question, JD. We are de-energizing some of our larger transmission lines up to 115 kV, and also what we call sub-transmission, which is the lower voltage 60 kV and 70 kV. And at the moment, do not have the specific number of people to your second question. What we do have and what we have been publicizing is the number of customers by county, and that customer count, as you know, is based on the premises that we have registered within our customer database.
Coming over here in the middle, blue jacket.
Oh, okay, I have this here. So for people who can't make sense of their situation, can you address people who feel that this may be an excessive move and wondering, is this really the only way that PG&E can cut down on fire risk?
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is not the only way, and we've had a multi-pronged approach that we have implemented for the last several years to remove additional vegetation in and around the proximity of our overhead lines, which tend to be a significant threat, especially during these high wind periods where vegetation can come in contact with our overhead lines and subsequently start an ignition and an associated wildfire. We also have done enhanced inspections. We are working on further hardening our system, doing targeted undergrounding, making our overhead system more resilient. But given the widespread nature of this wind event and the significant impact that it's going to have on the communities, our geographic footprint, and the potential electrical overhead assets, this is the measure of last resort. And given the extreme nature of what is being forecasted, we think this is the appropriate approach from a risk reduction perspective to, again, ensure the continued safety of our customers and our communities.
I have a second question regarding the Caldecott Tunnel specifically, and also Devil's Lake. Can you confirm whether they are going to be shut down? And then talk about the impact on travel. Obviously, thousands of people use them to commute throughout the Bay Area.
Thank you for that. That is something we are actively working on in regards to both of those areas to identify are there opportunities for us to be able to provide potential backup generation to those facilities so that we minimize the impact. And definitively for you, that's going to be an outcome, but we are actively engaged. We're actively working with the respective entities involved so that we can identify and further mitigate that issue.
So I understand correctly, you don't know if they will be shut down at this point?
Yeah, well, we know that they will be impacted as a result of de-energization, but we're trying to do everything we can, working with the entities to see if we can provide backup generation so we can continue to maintain service, and that's the piece that we are still working to develop a solution on.
Come on over here.
Hi there, Kate Larson with ABC7. A couple questions. Are you surprised by how many entities, people are being affected? Did you anticipate things like the Caldecott Tunnel closing down?
So thank you for that question. The widespread nature of the event, my humble perspective, I didn't necessarily view or imagine, right, the widespread nature of what we are seeing. One of the biggest aspects of our service territory being involved. When you look at our service territory, we have nearly most of our counties that are involved in this, from Sierra Foothills all the way down to the East Bay Hills. So given the extreme nature of this event, we have been working internally and forecasting kind of what we call a high stress scenario, which is comparable to the October 2017. And what we are seeing is that this is very similar in nature, but it does have a broader footprint, especially when you look at the East Bay.
But we know in the Bay Area and in all of California that we do have high fire danger weather. You said yourself that PG&E has been planning for this for years. So why isn't PG&E better prepared with things like more backup generators for the Caldecott tunnels or for other businesses that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to try and deal with these events, or the people who are checking into hotels or losing all of their groceries? This is costing a lot of people a lot of money.
Yeah, understood, and we completely understand the impact it has on communities, on customers, and I can tell you for the period of the last couple of years, we've been actively engaged with the communities, with the customers, proactively messaging that something like this could happen, to raise their awareness, to be prepared. It's no different than the fact that we live in a seismically active part of the world, right, with earthquakes, and that preparedness, and now we also are facing this devastating threat of wildfires as a result of climate change as well. We are offering up and we are implementing customer resource centers. There's 32 of them that we're going to be standing up, 28 as early as 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, which will provide water, air conditioning, restroom charging services to our customers and our community. So we have been actively working with the communities, with the counties on all of those elements of engagement.
Perhaps this is another way to ask the question. Are there things that you'd like to do differently for your next public safety power outage?
Yeah, so at the moment, I appreciate that question. Our focus is on this event to continue to ensure the safety of our customers and communities. And as we're continuing to go through this, I am sure we're going to be getting a lot of feedback from a lot of our stakeholders, and we always remain open and fully embrace the gift of feedback so we can continue to improve upon everything that we're trying to do here.
And this is really a statewide issue too, right, Sabine?
Yeah, thank you for that, Keith. So Southern California Edison and San Diego Gas and Electric are, my understanding, have also been activated their emergency centers, given the widespread nature of what they may be experiencing from a northeast wind event phenomenon known as the Santa Ana winds down in Southern California.
So is the website from PG&E going
You need a microphone, so hold on. Terry, I think you're next, and then we're gonna come over here, and then we'll go to the middle.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, PG&E's been around a long time. Communities, Calistoga, name anyone in the fire zone, Santa Rosa, Paradise, they've been there forever. The winds have been coming offshore forever. What's happened in the last few years that's driven these massive events? I heard you mention climate change. Can it be written off as something that's simply just as climate change, or what's going on?
You have to remember that California recently went through a pretty historic drought, and that definitely changed the landscape in quite a few ways.
We've had those before, though.
Yeah, the magnitude of the last one was pretty impressive. We've also had other ecological issues, the bark borers. The amount of tree kill up in the Sierra is pretty substantial. So there's a lot of things going into not the meteorology, which has.
And that is the news conference wrapping up there at the PG&E headquarters. Again, this is a high fire, the strongest winds since October 2017. That's when the North Bay fires happened. So PG&E, again, warning people about what the power shutoffs could mean here too.
That's right, Madison. And we're not turning our attention from these power shutoffs. We're going to be live on Facebook, YouTube, and all night long. We'll see you then.
trips. We're going to come back right here and then see if we have any other questions.
Do you anticipate the website being up by tonight?
We are working through the night to figure it out and to get it fixed. Yes, absolutely.
And then for all the residents and business owners who are spending thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars, hotel rooms, people who need extra medical care, do they have any way through PG&E to recoup their losses? I know you have short-term solutions as the centers that you just mentioned, but what do they do in the long run?
We leave that up to the respective customers and the communities itself in terms of whatever action they want to pursue. But what I've stated in terms of the education, the awareness, the customer resource centers, as well as identifying and working with some of the county agencies and the infrastructure that they've identified as potentially critical. The question you asked earlier about the Caldecott Tunnel, those are all the things that we're doing to ensure we're continuing to minimize the impact of the communities in the form of backup generation as well, where it's feasible. So those are the types of things that we are currently focused on.
Okay, Kate, maybe one last one.
Well, I can project. To follow up, can people send you
They
their-
can't hear you on the phone. They can't hear
I
you on the
guess
phone.
people hold PG&E financially responsible for these inconveniences and all of these costs. So is there a way for them to financially recoup their losses directly through PG&E?
Right now, there's not a method for that. They can submit a claim, but right now, a PSPS event would not qualify for something to be recuperated. All right, Kate, we'll go over here. Okay, that was a follow-up. JD, last question.
With the wind event that's prompting this, what is the outer limit right now on how long it could be before power is fully restored?
So the Friday reference was to the southern part, which is in the Kern County, and that's more isolated. Currently, we're forecasting the adverse weather to traverse through our service territory for the Sierra Foothills, North Bay, the East Bay, the Santa Cruz areas by midday on Thursday. Now again, that could change. That's the current weather forecast. And then subsequent to that, we launch into sending an army of qualified personnel to be able to assess the safety of our system and do the restoration. And that's really going to be dependent upon the amount of damage that our system may experience, but it could be up to 5 days or more. And we're doing everything we can to reduce that impact and be able to do the restoration as safely and as quickly as possible.
So Monday?
Potentially longer than that as well.
So you've obviously been talking about how many resources PG&E is using to deal with this PSPS. Can you give us some specifics? How many backup generators have PG&E provided in addition to what they would normally do because of this outage? How many extra personnel do you have working? What are you doing to ensure that our viewers who are very concerned and not quite sure this is the right move know that you're, taking a part in this?
Yeah, well, thank you for that. In terms of the number of people, we have internal personnel, we have our qualified contractor personnel, we have the ability to bring mutual aid, so we've already started down that process to identify if there's additional resources we can bring from the neighboring states. But we have the ability currently internally to bring to bear more than 5,000 qualified personnel across our service territory to do this work and to do the work safely and do the restoration, so we minimize the duration of the impact that it's going to have on our customers and our communities.
So Samit, when we call it all clear weather-wise in the North Bay here, the Sierra Foothills, what will the process be? So walk them through the process.
So the process would be after we do the all clear, the first step, as I've stated previously, is to bring in both internal and contractors and deploy them across our service territory with the areas that have been de-energized to inspect visually every single inch of our electrical overhead system to ensure there's no damage. We also have a fleet of aerial helicopters that we're going to be bringing to bear, more than 30, and that number is going to continue to grow as we're trying to bring additional air fleet resources on board so we can do the inspections in a quick, safe, and expedient manner.
When can you say for sure that everyone's power will be restored?
So at the moment, we are forecasting that after the all clear, which is midday Thursday, that it could be up to 5 days, and we are continuing to work on that plan in a very detailed manner by community on a prioritized restoration so that we can bring the critical customers online as quickly and as safely as we can. So we're going to have that information as we continue and progress through this event.
But Tuesday?
What we've committed to do is provide updates, which we will be doing throughout this process. So much like tonight, we're providing an update. As we make progress on our inspections, we'll provide updates on that, as well as restoration by county. So that's what we're looking at as we go forward. So we'll be providing that to all of you on a daily basis.
And just one point I want to reinforce as to, we're not avoiding the question, right? So it's difficult to know what is going to be the actual impact and damage to our system. The wind gusts that we are expecting in certain cases may be 70 miles an hour. In those cases, we may have some significant impact to our infrastructure. So in those instances, it will take longer to do the restoration. But in the instances where we do not have a lot of damage, we'll be able to do that restoration in a much more expedited fashion. And as we continue to progress through this event, we will have a lot more details in regards to by community what would be our estimated time of restoration. And that's one of our key and primary objectives that we're looking to solve for.
And Evan, what's kind of the sustained winds and the gusts or the peaks?
Now we're expecting across the North Bay sustained winds of 20 to 30 miles during the peak of the event, 35 to 45 miles per hour, but locally, especially in the top of the North area, up to 65 miles per hour. In the Santa Cruz area, 15 to 25 mile per hour sustained winds, but gusts 35 to 45. That's mainly for the higher elevations of the Santa Cruz area. Sacramento Valley, Sierra foothills, we're expecting sustained winds 20 to 30 miles per hour, with gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour, up to 60 miles per hour in the higher elevations of Sierra foothills during the peak of the event. All of those gust values are generalized, and there could be some locations that see higher than those numbers in pretty much all of those areas.
Okay, with that, we're going to wrap up.
Just given that this is an unprecedented event and all of the precautionary measures that PG&E has taken, how confident are you that you will handle this event well?
I can tell you that we have our unwavering focus and commitment to do exactly that. And not just do it by ourselves, but do it through the engagement with our state and local agencies that we are coordinating with every single step of this event. To your point, this is unprecedented in terms of what all of us are facing as a collective community, but we have an unwavering commitment to do our part to ensure we do everything we can to keep our customers, our communities safe, while minimizing the impact and disrupting their lives.
All right, thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you.
Well, you have been listening to that news conference with PG&E there. They spoke for about 30 minutes trying to update people on this breaking news, and that is that 800,000 PG&E customers could be impacted by this power safety shutoff. And the interesting thing, Madison, is that we've been looking at a lot of the questions coming in from folks today. A lot of folks saying, well, what about SMUD? What about Sacramento?
So
what are you hearing?
we got one question from Tyrene Gleason's asking, why isn't SMUD doing this too then? You know, in Sacramento County, that's our electric bill. What the answer from their website says, while our risk of wildfires is very low in Sacramento County, we may shut off power as a last resort. And we're fortunate Sacramento County is not designed as a high fire threat area. So again, this is PG&E customers we're talking about, but also Southern California. Sometimes they do that down there as well. But really, this is the impact we're seeing here tonight. 800,000 PG&E customers, and according to Cal OES, the estimate of that could actually be somewhere about 2.4 million people impacted by this too.
And so let's take a look at a map so we can give you a better idea of how many folks we're talking about. All of that in yellow, those are folks who could lose their power as early as midnight tonight. And so the big thing that we have been trying to get across to folks at home is that you need to prepare now. There are some things that you can do according to PG&E. Make sure you update your contact information with the company. Make sure you have a safety plan for your family and your pets. Have an emergency kit that includes food and water. And make sure your phones and other devices are charged before that power goes out, because you know we are always on those phones. And if you lose power, that's really all you're going to have. And if you have a generator, make sure that it works. This is important information. Learn how to manually open your garage, and of course keep a battery powered radio nearby. You know, these are things that we've not a lot of times had to worry about, but these are things that you need to bring back front and center. Always keep cash on hand, and try and make sure you go on and get a full tank of gas, because here's the deal. When the power goes out, you cannot pump gas at stations. And so what you find is that, especially when you have these rolling outages, that everywhere you look, there are issues and you can't get. So this is why you need to be preparing now. Let's get over to Monica to try to give us a better idea of who's impacted and when. Monica.
Well, of course, I'm glad that you showed them that map, because people that aren't in that map for power outages are still going to be under the risk of rapid fire spread because of all the dry grass throughout the valley. It just so happens that we aren't in that type of terrain where we have the rolling hills where we can see rapid fire spread in a much different manner, or power outages and lines down up the hill. We just have a different type of vegetation going on here. Red flag warning in effect starting tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. And to be honest with you, the winds aren't going to be all that terrible early on tonight into about midnight. Then it all starts to change early tomorrow. But this red flag warning extends from Redding through Sacramento, south of Sacramento, in through the northern San Joaquin Valley, all the way through the South Bay area, up through the foothills and over towards the Bay Area. And that includes some of those coastal hills. Gusty winds, low humidity, and as we talked about, rapid fire spread. This is a strong wind event. Wind advisory in place through tomorrow and Thursday. Strongest winds develop Wednesday night. That is really the time frame that I think a lot of us are concerned. You just heard from some of the press conference that we had from OES and also from PG&E, just talking about how dangerous the conditions are going to be, highest over the exposed ridges. Now, I want to go ahead and show you just a little bit more on the perspective of how things are looking here. And here's our future winds. Right now, out of the southwest at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Very typical. Nothing too extreme here. Now let's fast forward through tonight and early tomorrow morning. By 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, this is how things are looking. One thing that I want to point out, you notice that some of these colors started to change. Anywhere that we have some of the yellow, the oranges, the reds, those are going to be the areas that are seeing the strongest winds at that time frame. And we're looking at Wednesday at 10 a.m. So here's the area right here, and it extends just north of I-80 up along 505 on the west side of the valley. So places like West Sacramento, Dixon, even up towards Yolo and Winters, Woodland, Esparto, all those areas really hitting those hard, strong winds up through Colusa County. Parts of Lake County will be getting in on that as well. Now, sustained winds at about 15 to 20 miles per hour. What happens after that, though, is those gusts could be reaching about 50 to 55 miles per hour. And again, I mentioned the potential for highest over the ridges. Where? We've had a lot of questions about this. Is it going to be the foothills? Is it going to be the coastal hills? Well, again, look at the contours, those different colors that are popping up on the map. Look at this area right in between the 80-50 corridor, just north of Highway 50. That region right there, getting some pretty strong winds, very strong gusts. The other area right here in the coastal range, right over the ridge tops, especially areas that unfortunately 2 years ago to the date, we were having emergency officials knocking on people's doors because of the North Bay fires that happened overnight, trying to get people out from a rapidly spreading fire situation. It was an explosive fire growth, one that we have rarely seen but are starting to see more of. And that's why we're taking all these precautions right now. Winds will continue through Thursday morning at that clip, especially now we look at these contours. Look at this just north of Santa Rosa. Again, look at those contours right there. We're talking about extremely strong winds in a very small area. They compress, they warm, they speed up, and they can spread fires. If a spark is started, they can spread fires very quickly. Let's go ahead and just review what happened 2 years ago to the date. North Bay fires, those big winds that developed overnight. It was on a Sunday evening. Santa Rosa, 26-mile-per-hour wind, but gusts at 68. Hawkeye Raws, now that is just a monitoring site. It's very close to Santa Rosa. 48-mile-per-hour wind, but the gust was almost at 80 miles per hour. There were four fires that broke out in that small time frame. It was the Tubbs, Nuns, Atlas, and Pocket. These are called Diablo winds. They're north to northeast winds, so they come from the north and the east, and then they push their way south and west, okay? They accelerate through hills. Think about it if you've ever been over towards the coast. Think about how much terrain you have to go up and down and around and through canyons. That's what we're talking about, rolling hills, right? Dry, warm wind develops from that and explosive fire growth. That will also happen in Southern California, and it's the exact same setup that we have. Pressure system just off to our east, high pressure ridge over the Pacific. It's in between those two areas. They're very different. They have very different temperature contours associated with them. We start to see the offshore winds. Now we talk about the terrain. We have mountains, we have hills, we have mountains again. So we have a lot of different elevation changes. We start those winds from the north and the east, push them down, compress them, warm them, accelerate them. Again, any spark that happens, it's going to spread quickly and it's going to move in this direction, directly offshore. They're called Santa Ana winds in Southern California. Up here in Northern California, Diablo winds. Those are the weather situations we are looking at. I will also mention that this is a statewide event. We're talking about this weather pattern setting up most dangerous in the northern part of the valley first. Then it's going to work its way down through Southern California. So as we head into Wednesday afternoon, these are the areas that are going to be of most concern. We're talking about a 6 on this scale. That's going to be in the high to almost extreme range for wildfire danger. As we head north toward more on the range of about 4, but that all the way through the coastal hills and the foothills. Now, as we work our way through late on Wednesday through Thursday, the fire danger is going to increase as we head towards Southern California, especially some of these contours. Again, this is how we display some of the most severe weather. You can see they start to change in Southern California. It's still going to be high up north for Northern California, but it really, by late on Thursday, we're going to be talking California. So for all of us, though, this is going to be a statewide event, lots of power outage potentials, and could be historic. Madison and Chris?
All right, Monica, thank you so much. My goodness, so much information there. And again, thank you so much for joining us on Facebook, on abc10.com, also on our app, YouTube as well. We appreciate you, and we are hearing all those questions. We'll get to those in just a little bit. But again, we just want to reset here, recap what we know, because we're talking about these PG&E massive power shutoffs beginning tonight. Nearly 800,000 customers across our area. And again, we're going to show you the map here in just a little bit. What you were just hearing from Monica is because of the dangerous fire weather conditions.
That's right. This is something we want to walk you through as you take a look at this map. All the places in yellow could have their lights turned off come tomorrow. It's a massive area. This is PG&E's biggest power shut off ever. We can send this map to you right now. Just text POWER to 916-321-3310, and we will send this map to you and let you know if your area is impacted. We do want you to know that PG&E's website has been going up and down all day long. As you can imagine, many people are trying to get information, and so the site has been crashing. So what they are doing is turning to social media, places like Twitter, to try to keep folks updated on what is happening throughout the evening. They have apologized to people as they work through this, but this is something that has never happened before. And so, as as you have 800,000 customers impacted, as you mentioned, that rounds out to about more than 2 million people. That's why they are starting to tweet out some of these maps that we're going to try and show you, giving you an idea of areas that are impacted. This is an example of what we're seeing as they are tweeting out maps to areas that are impacted by this power outage. They're calling it a power safety, fire safety power shutoff. One of the things that we keep hearing from folks out there tonight is that folks want to know how soon could this happen? And we are hearing as early as midnight, Madison, that people could find themselves in the dark.
And a lot of people wondering, how long is this going to happen? Well, we just heard in that news conference it could take up to 5 days, potentially even more, to get the power turned back on successfully, because every time the power goes off, they do have to inspect every single inch of the lines to make sure that nothing was damaged during this wind event. Again, this is the largest and strongest wind event they have seen since October 2017. You heard Monica just talk about that with the North Bay fires.
That's right. And so the impact, folks want to know who's going to be impacted. In the morning commute, we're already hearing conversations around perhaps tunnels being impacted or closed, places like the Caldecott Tunnel. Can you imagine that? So many people take that as they're driving into the Bay Area and things of that nature. One of the things that we've been trying to stress is that if you have not been paying folks who think that, oh, the weather is nice, oh, the winds aren't high right now, maybe they haven't been watching the news, please share this link with them right now. Please reach out to them. Please call mama and cousin and daddy and uncle and everybody else and let them know, hey, do you have a plan in place? Because PG&E is preparing to shut off power to 800,000 customers across the state. And when something like this happens, you don't want folks to be caught off guard, right, Madison? And I know you've got some questions you've been going through.
Oh, absolutely. And a lot of people are asking really valid questions here that I didn't even really think of. But one was, will PG&E pay for food that goes bad? Of course, this impacts a lot of people who just have food in their refrigerator, right? But also businesses too. Right. PG&E says right now they do not have a plan in place for that. Okay, really quick, we're going to answer those questions in a second. But back to these maps here. This is all on PG&E's Twitter page. If you go and look, you can see the maps. Like this is Shasta County, for example. That's up north where Redding is. Those are the areas in yellow that will have their power shut off. But now they're giving some visuals for people to see exactly where you live in this map. That will give you more of an understanding if you can expect your power to be shut off tonight. There's also a long list that I posted to my Facebook page, also my Twitter and my Instagram, that shows just literally every single county, how many customers, and then which towns, cities in that county are going to be affected. So that's also something, a visual, if you would like to send to, again, everyone here.
One of the reasons they're doing this is because, as we were telling you, the website has been crashing throughout the day with everyone trying to see, hey, is my area impacted? You also, as you mentioned earlier, we're hearing from SMUD. People are saying, well, that's PG&E. Well, what about folks at SMUD? What about people in Roseville? Roseville has their own power company as well. And so we were hearing that portions of Roseville may not be impacted. But of course, the main thing that everybody keeps hedging on, they keep saying that they're going to play it by ear, essentially, that it will be based on as conditions merit. But right now, SMUD says they do not see a need, as you mentioned earlier, Madison, for any power outages in their coverage area. Some of the things that we've been trying to share with you are also, if we can show this graphic of what people should do to prepare for this power safety shutoff. PG&E actually has a long list of things that they recommend you do. According to PG&E, update your contact information with the company. That's important because that's how they notify you. They will send you a text, they'll send you an email, they'll even try and give you a call. So they need to make sure that they have your updated contact information. Make sure you have a safety plan for you, your family, and your pets. A lot of times, our pets can become victims in these types of things. They're not accustomed to some of these things that they might experience. So make sure you have a backup plan. Prepare an emergency kit too as well. Madison is one of the things that they talk about with food and water, and make sure your phones and other devices are charged. Folks probably on those phones now, maybe even watching this as we speak. Make sure you plug in that phone as you're watching, because you want to make sure it's charged. Because Madison, the interesting thing is they were saying this power could be out for what, as many as 5 days?
Right, for some areas. Again, that's really hard to say right now. It is a waiting game to see really how long and how long this event will be, but also the damage to the lines, because that's really what's going to halt them from turning the power back on to make sure that they can get the power restored to so many customers. Again, we're talking 800,000 customers. This is a significant event, the first power shutoff event of this magnitude for PG&E as well.
And you were sharing your story just over the weekend.
Right, yeah.
You were out, you were in an area where they had a power shut off.
Yep, I went to Mammoth just to go hiking, and same thing. They had the power shut off for the day because of the high fire risk and strong winds. It was very windy, I remember that. And I had no cash. So, when they say go get cash, they really mean go get cash.
But
because
folks don't carry cash as much
right,
these
you
days,
don't carry cash, you don't really think about it, but just to even have a couple $20 bills here and there, that way you can fill up the tank of gas or buy some food. But yeah, the gas station was not working, which makes sense, and so I had to go get cash, then go back to the gas station, and then give him a $20 bill, and then so long story short, cash is huge. Also make sure to have the backup chargers for your phones charged, because there's so many of those things that you can buy now that aren't too expensive, and that way you can have that charged to then charge your phone, your computer, whatever it may be.
It's true. One of the things I want to kind of prepare people for what we're going to be doing, we are going to be doing back-to-back live coverage, so that, because hey, if the power goes out, you got to turn to online, you got to turn to social media, and so we are going to be there on Facebook, on abc10.com, providing you updates as we get that information in. The other thing that we want to remind you of, we're also going to be speaking with firefighters, because that's the other component of this. We've been talking about the winds, we've been talking about the power shutoffs, but the other component is that there is a red flag warning, which means that this is high fire danger. And we have seen what's happened in years past when we see these types of winds moving into the area. And so fire crews are at the ready. We've got a representative that's going to be joining us here in studio live in just a matter of moments. And this is what we're doing to try to make sure that you are prepared for this major event.
Yeah, and again, we're answering your questions too. We had a couple of people ask, is this including Davis? Well, the city of Davis said no. At this point, right now, that is not including Davis. Again, a lot of people wondering about Sacramento and SMUD, not including SMUD right now, not including Sacramento. The high fire risk areas are really more in the Sierra, the foothills, the Bay Area, the North Bay Area. 34 counties, though, is a lot. And so, again, we have the whole list on our website. We can send it to you. Whatever you need, we're here to help you.
And if I can, I want to try to get back over to Monica shortly, because one of the things that we want to remind people as we were talking about that red flag warning is the time frames that we're looking there, of what we can look for when we talk about winds in some of the areas there. So if Monica, if you have just a moment, we'll have you come back and show us some of the things that you were trying to remind people of just earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm working off of one system, trying to get to the other one. You can see the red flag warning, though, up there right now. And this starts up tomorrow morning. Again, a lot of folks might be thinking, oh, it's not actually that bad out right now. Sorry, I'm working on another graphic, but let me close that up and we'll get back to our red flag warning here. Again, it's not that bad outside. Winds are fairly calm at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. But the reason why we're doing what we're doing right now is because we want to get people ready to evacuate. You don't want to be caught flat-footed when all of a sudden you're asked to evacuate. Earlier tonight, I was showing some video that we had of a body cam off of an emergency official going around to doors, knocking on doors, trying to get people to wake up because we had that North Bay fire wind event. We've been making reference to this because that is an area of focus, again, with the wind event that we're about to see. But they were going overnight, knocking on doors, waking people up, get out now. And you saw the embers and sparks just flying over cars as they're trying to evacuate people out of that area. That's the type of wind event that we're heading into. So again, for tonight, not that bad. Make the evacuation plans. This might sound kind of morbid, but unfortunately, a lot of people got stuck in their garages because they couldn't get their garage doors open. You might want to leave your garage door open, or at least know the emergency latch. It might not be safe to leave your garage door open at night, but at least have that emergency latch ready to go so you can release it if the power goes out to get your car out, or park it outside so you have easy access to get out as well. Okay, just a couple more tips, just learning from past experience. Here's a look at the red flag warning again. Starts up tomorrow morning. Not so bad tonight. Winds really start to ramp up pretty quickly. Once this gets going, it just is given an all access pass to keep going through late on Thursday. Gusty winds, low humidity. We've already talked about the rapid fire spread. This could be one of the strongest wind events that we've seen this year so far, especially in this higher fire danger period that we have at this point in the season with everything being so dry. Leaves are starting to dry out. We haven't had significant rain since May, and that late May rain is kind of a double-edged sword. It started the fire season, the real high fire season, later in the year, but it gave us more growth. So now that we've seen drying, we have all that additional fuel from the late May rains. This wind advisory starts up tomorrow, goes through Thursday. The strongest winds are actually going to be right about tomorrow night at this time. We're really going to start to hear things howling. And I don't know if you remember 2 years ago when we had those North Bay fires, you could hear howling overnight. Even with the campfire from last year as well in November, you knew, wow, those winds are just whipping around and everything was just so dry. Leaves crunching, grass crunching. Highest overexposed ridges. That's where we're going to see some of those highest winds, is where we really have access to get those winds accelerating. So as far as our winds tonight, only about 5 to 10 miles per hour, but that's early in the evening. As we head into early tomorrow morning, we'll get through that morning commute with gusty winds. It's not going to be the greatest for driving conditions, but it's just after that time frame. Once we get to about 10 a.m., one thing that I want to point out is going to be the colors that you're seeing on this map. Everywhere that's gray, that means fairly light winds for the time being. Once we start to see the colors developing, that's where we're going to have the highest concentration of winds. And what you're going to notice is that it's going to be shifting a little bit from time to time. Okay, so we have winds at about 15 to over 20 miles per hour in the valley. Could see all that dry grass. If anything sparks, any spark gets going, the fire could spread quickly. Again, because we just have so much fuel to burn at this point in the season. But some of the highest winds are actually going to be on the west side of the valley. So for those of us that are north of I-80 and just off to the west of I-5, so Esparto and Winters and Woodland, just off to the west there, all the way through up through Colusa County, we're going to have a lot of high winds that are going to be going. You'll notice that the Santa Rosa area, not particularly strong early tomorrow morning, nor in the foothills or the Sierra. That's not going to be the main focus of area tomorrow morning. All right, now let's start to fast forward as this wind event starts to develop a little bit more. Now we're at Thursday morning. Again, overnight Wednesday into early Thursday. Look at how this expands. Now we're talking about areas north of Highway 50 here, in that 80-50 corridor. Look at the colors again. That's going to be the highest concentration of winds in this area, just north of I-80, right around the Blue Canyon area, right around that region there. Since these are north and northeast winds, it's going to be offshore winds, so they're going to be going downhill. So let's say, we start a fire up here. It's going to be blowing downhill into some of the foothills. And again, anybody that's been up to the Sierra knows how hilly and how many canyons there are. So you get a fire in one of those canyons, that is a tough firefight, because you got to get equipment down into those canyons, down into those crevices to be able to fight those fires. The other focus that I want to point out is, again, on the west side of the valley, and we're talking about Fairfield, Vacaville, Solano, Yolo County. Now we're starting to see some of those contours pop up here right along the coastal valley area and some of those ridge tops there. So Santa Rosa starts to become a bit more of the conversation tomorrow, or I should say Thursday morning. Tomorrow night, Thursday morning, that's more the conversation, as well as the Sierra foothills and all the way up into the Sierra. Now we're at Thursday 10 a.m. So we haven't expanded it that much in time frame. The valley's still breezy. Winds still a problem on the west side of the valley in particular. But again, look at some of these areas here. We're talking about this tiny little area right here, just to the north of Santa Rosa. that is going to have a particularly strong potential for some gusty winds and explosive fire growth. Now, that'll be true as well for the foothills and Sierra. Again, fires don't start without a spark. All this wind could be happening, and we could have debris, we could have downed trees, we could have all sorts of damage, but we can make it out of this without a fire if there's no spark. And the ways that that happens, you have your chains dragging from perhaps a trailer that you're towing. Somebody with a car problem pulls over on the side of the road. Lawn equipment. We've heard of that before. Somebody mowing the lawn hits a rock. So blades, metal, rock, that can spark a fire. And obviously just recklessness, leaving a campfire, but power as well. And finally, we see those winds starting to back off by about Thursday at 5 p.m., seeing a little bit of relief. So if we can make it through this time frame, Madison, then I think we're going to be okay.
Oh, Monica, thank you so much for all of that information. It's incredible how much this is going to impact so many people in our area. Of course, we're here to help you. If you have questions, please let us know. We have an entire team working to get answers for you tonight ahead of these power shutoffs that could happen as early as midnight tonight and could last for days. We are not joking here when we say you need to prepare to make sure you have everything in place, all your phones charged, all the information you have, your information up to date with PG&E as well, so they can get a hold of you too. Also, we are learning that schools are a concern tonight because obviously of the power shutoffs. Amador County just announced that their public schools will be closed tomorrow due to the planned outage. If the grid remains down, they'll stay closed on Thursday as well. We also have heard from Mills College and UC Berkeley in the Bay Area. They just announced they're also closing and canceling classes for the day tomorrow. Again, this is impacting so many different areas too, so we want to make sure we're showing you a couple more maps here. The areas impacted you're seeing on these maps of these shutoffs at the bottom of your screen too. Our Kevin John was in Placer County today. He was talking to school officials about what they're doing ahead of these shutoffs. In Auburn, they plan on keeping their schools open tomorrow despite these power shutoffs. Other school districts have been in meetings today too to discuss the contingency plans. And here was the Auburn superintendent earlier today.
The ability to think critically, problem solve, and work cooperatively does not require electricity. So we have running water, we have our fire alarm system is in place, and we have a backup battery for that lasts at least 24 to 48 hours. So we will monitor the situation and reevaluate as necessary to ensure the safety of our children.
And we are posting updated school closures on our website as we are learning from them, from these different school districts. Meanwhile, in the Bay Area, people are rushing to stores to get things like ice to help save their food. And Ace Hardware also is running out of supplies in places like Orinda, where they know for sure their power is going to be going out. In Oakland tonight, it seems almost everyone in uniform who is going to be there is going to be out.
We are fully prepared, and we have made it a mandatory that all officers, all sworn officers, their days off are canceled. And starting this evening at 2 o'clock in the morning, we've even assigned our entire investigative team will be in uniforms and being out in the field.
And Oakland's mayor is calling on PG&E to minimize the impact of these shutoffs, saying some people living without power for 5 days is devastating. AVERT is even responding to the proposed power shutoffs. They're saying that they anticipate no train service disruptions if the power goes out in the Bay Area. They have generators, say there could be some escalator outages too. And PG&E was in federal court today talking about this shutoff plan. The power monopoly was found guilty of crimes after the 2010 San Bruno gas explosion, which killed 8 people. Keep in mind, PG&E is in court during its 5-year sentence of probation. ABC 10's Brandon Ritteman is explaining that the judge put a lot of pressure on PG&E to shut off powers during windstorms.
The reason for all these massive shutoff plans is simple. PG&E's power grid can't be trusted to be safe in bad wind. All you got to do is look at the last 2 years when state investigators say PG&E power equipment sparked fires that killed 107 people, including the Camp Fire, the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in state history. The judge handling PG&E's probation almost ordered the company to shut off power lines whenever the wind speed got to a certain level. He didn't do that. Instead, the judge left it up to PG&E to decide when to cut the power. PG&E says it'll factor in the weather, the dryness of fuels, and how many people live in a given area before making the call. Meantime, the company's inspecting its whole power grid and says it's fixing problems with the lines and also trimming back the trees. But PG&E's court-ordered monitor did a whole bunch of surprise inspections this summer to double-check the company's safety work. Those inspections flagged hundreds of problems with the tree trimming job and with PG&E's records to keep track of it. PG&E says it's now making more improvements. The judge said today he looks forward to seeing how this week's shutoff plan plays out. The judge says the goal is for PG&E's power grid to someday be trustworthy enough to, quote, operate safely 100% of the time. But for now, the shutoffs, in the judge's view, are, quote, more prudent than leaving the power on and burning down an entire county.
And again, if you are just joining us on Facebook, we welcome you and we welcome your questions to us. We're here to help when it comes to these power shutoffs for 800,000 PG&E customers. That is customers, not necessarily people. Cal OES is saying that the estimate could be 2.4 million people. That's based on some of the math that they were doing. Okay, now we're taking a look again at that Google map. We're able to zoom in and kind of show you the areas that are really impacted here. It looks like we're zooming in on the Sierra foothills a little bit right now. And so again, all the areas that are shaded here are where the power will be shut off. And this is going to be starting as early as midnight tonight and could last for several days. In the news conference earlier tonight, the VP of Asset and Risk Management, Samit Singh, did say that it could last for up to 5 days, meaning into next week, Monday, Tuesday, potentially even, because again, once this wind event does happen, they do need to go re-inspect those lines. So again, it looks like, and I can ask, I think our producer to tell us exactly what area we're looking at right now in this map. It looks like we're over Copperopolis. So, and again, this is a large amount of customers, 800,000 people, customers rather, and 34 counties spanning a large area. The Bay Area also part of this too. Again, the areas shaded you're seeing here are where power will be shut off, according to PG&E. So we're continuing to follow this for you all. Of course, we're not going anywhere when it comes to this because we realize how many people this really does impact, how many businesses as well. A couple questions that we were getting in from a lot of people were wondering about being reimbursed for costs during this entire power outage. And PG&E says right now there's no plan in place for reimbursing people for costs accrued during a power shutoff, and that includes businesses as well. So now also we're taking a look at the different maps for different counties. Amador County, here is one. You can find all of this for your county, wherever you live, if you have a family member that lives nearby you. As well, this is PG&E's Twitter account because we have been telling you that their website is not working at the moment. There's some issues with their website, so therefore they're turning to Twitter to make sure people are updated about what they need to know in terms of when power will be shut off, how long, what areas are being impacted as well. I know we've got a couple questions coming in about Sacramento and Davis. Davis is not included in this. Sacramento is not included in this. Again, SMUD, at the last resort will shut off power, but that is the last resort. We are not in a high fire risk area here in Sacramento in the city limits right now. But again, we know that this is a large story in terms of what firefighters are, police, make sure everyone's safe, what the weather is doing, meteorologists, National Weather Service. Clearly, we are trying our best to track this all for you. Chris Thomas just wrapped up an interview with a firefighter to talk more about this impact that they're seeing, again, because we're talking about a high fire risk area, weather event actually happening, but also we're talking about red flag warnings. Nearly every time we've talked about a red flag warning, unfortunately, we see a fire pop up. So again, it's really important that everyone is mindful. You heard Monica say it. Do not have any sort of metal hit any sort of dry grass. Be very mindful of the conditions in the next couple days because each and every one of us is responsible for making sure that we do not start a fire that could then spread because of the conditions we're seeing. Again, these are the maps that are by county, 34 of them. PG&E has tweeted. San Joaquin County you're taking a look at now. And it also, if you want to click more more into that, it'll show you how many customers in that area are being impacted, which areas, and also just make sure that, PG&E is saying that you need to update your contact information with them so that they can therefore let you know about what they need to tell you when it comes to these power shutoffs. So in Calaveras County, more than 2,300,000 PG&E customers will see their power shut off. Well, they're also being asked to conserve water as well. Abe's 10 Liz Howland is explaining why.
In the hills of Calaveras County, surrounded by lush, beautiful trees, homes are prone to wildfires.
We got to be prepared for anything here.
As the county and thousands of other homeowners across our region prepare for a PG&E power shutoff because of hot, dry, and windy conditions that could last for up to 5 days, the county's water district is desperately trying to get this message out there. If your power is shut off, conserve your water.
Obviously, without electricity, you're going to rely on backup generation. So if the homeowners don't have backup generation, those pumps aren't going to function.
This water district has spent months preparing, strategically placing backup generators like this one across the area. But in the event that one of these fails, they say it is critical to conserve your water. They're recommending no extra use of water, no washing cars or filling up pools. They're also urging customers to turn off their landscaping systems, take only short showers, and flush the toilet when necessary. They say wastewater is their biggest concern, coming from showers, washing dishes, dishwashers, laundry machines, and toilets. So if their backup generators fail, it's possible that waste could back up into your home or even into the street in your neighborhood.
That could be a pretty significant impact to the community. So we're going to do everything we can to avoid that, but we really need the help of the community to conserve water to take the pressure off of those facilities.
If the generator fails during the planned blackout, the water district says they plan to mobilize immediately, get another portable generator into the neighborhood, or send a mechanic right away. But conserving water is one thing you can do now to help them in the long run.
So the more that people conserve water, the less water that would be. It a little bit of time in the failures and take some pressure off of those facilities.
And we're also getting some more questions too from people. Looks like Ashley Heights asked, are they shutting the water off as well? Well, Vacaville, the city of Vacaville, is warning that their water service could also be impacted by these shutoffs. They say that they would love for people to conserve water as much as possible right now. And that includes pretty much anybody, because if you can imagine, obviously the power shutoffs are going to trickle into every little thing. We don't really realize how much this is actually going to impact traffic, water, businesses, a lot of other things. And again, you're here to talk more about the traffic too.
Right. Like you said, there's this cascade effect. We're not exactly sure how many services it's going to affect, but traffic is one of them right now. So I want to tell you, Caltrans is preparing to close down the Caldecott Tunnel in the East Bay and the Lantos Tunnel in Pacifica due to PG&E's power shutoffs across the area. So Caltrans tweeted out tonight to say that the full closure of the tunnels could happen as early as tonight. But according to the San Mateo County, the Lantos Tunnel is expected to close at noon tomorrow. So we're hearing both maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow at noon. The California Highway Patrol is encouraging drivers to take alternate routes. But here's the thing. It could continue, like we're saying, for those power shutoffs for as long as 5 days. So the agency says the tunnels, they can't operate without power. Kevin Rose, manager of the Office of Emergency Services for San Mateo County, said that when the power's shut off, there will be no fire suppression system, and that's why they have to shut down. The transportation agency said it's working with PG&E to equip the tunnels with emergency power to keep the Caldecott Tunnel in operation. We're still waiting to find out if that's actually going to happen. The Caldecott Tunnel connects Contra Costa and Alameda counties along Highway 24. The Tom Lantos tunnels, informally known as the Devil's Slide Tunnel, are a major artery that runs through the county and carries thousands of commuters every day. Caltrans says the closure will last up to 5 days. And now BART is the one thing that we've been hearing expected to remain open during the power shutoff. So like you said, it's going to affect a lot of different things around the area.
Absolutely, and it's important too for people, if you're not impacted by this, but your route to work is, it's really important to know which counties, which areas do not have power as of starting as early as midnight. It's important to know that. Okay, we want to get things over now to Chris Thomas, who's standing by with Chris Vestal, I believe, with Sac Metro Fire to talk more about the red flag warnings and what firefighters are doing to help too.
That's right, here with Captain Chris Vestal with Sac Metro Fire, Madison. And, you know, we've been talking a lot about the winds and the power outages, but that is because of the fire danger, right?
It absolutely is, and it's a legitimate threat. Very critical fire weather coming up in the next couple of days. In the Sacramento region, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds and hour winds with even stronger gusts. Very similar to what we saw last year during the Camp Fire and some of the other large fires 2 years ago in the Sonoma-Napa areas.
And so as we keep that in mind, we've been hearing a lot about PG&E. Some folks were asking about SMUD and the impact that this could have on Sacramento County. Talk more about that.
So the impact on Sacramento County is, right now, we don't have any indication that power will be lost in our area. However, just outside of this area, absolutely will have some impact. People in those areas need to make sure that they have some battery backup, whether that's to keep their medications cool, some of their medical devices running, but also consider if you don't have medical problems, think about keeping your food cold and buying some ice for your ice chest. Bring that back into the Sacramento region. We also have that fire danger. In fact, we've had big fires during this time of year in these weather events that have gone 7,000 to 8,000 acres. Back in 2007, the Jackson fire, which severely injured one of our people, as well as several community members. So it is a real threat here in the Sacramento region.
And one of the things that you were telling me was, even if the actual Sacramento County area is not impacted, a lot of times our crews are sent to these other areas and it can impact the response time here in Sacramento County.
Correct. So in Sacramento, we're one of the largest mutual aid regions in the state. And between Metro Fire, Sacramento Fire, Folsom, and Cosumnes, we will send people throughout all of California. Last year during the Camp Fire, within only a few hours, we had nearly 100 people that were sent to the Camp Fire. Now, we always backfill, so we always are able to provide the same level of service as we send people out, but that takes a couple hours. So what we want to do in this area, don't start a fire here, and also if you're outside of this area, do the same thing, because your actions will affect response times, emergency services, emergency medical care, and fire suppression throughout the state.
And then I know a lot of times we talk about first responders, and people are starting to think about, well, what if I have medical needs that require some type of electricity? What if I'm waiting for some type of notice on evacuations and my power is out? What in the world am I supposed to do?
First thing to do before you go to bed tonight, charge your phones. The phones will get the WAY alerts or the wireless emergency activations. But the other thing is, consider having other mechanisms like battery-powered radios. Think about AM radio, things that we used to do but aren't necessarily culturally relevant. So consider those. The other thing is, think about those backup plans. Have generators. But if you're going to use a gas-powered generator, have it far away from your house so that those fumes don't come inside. And we recommend using a battery-powered generator. Things that won't cause fumes that are harmful to the human.
Things that folks ought to be doing right now as we are hearing that this is going to take effect around midnight. What should we be doing right now?
Charge every device that you can that is possible that might receive some kind of emergency notice. Store all of your food somewhere that's going to be cold. Don't open up your refrigerators. Think about any medical needs that you might have. Insulin for diabetics or oxygen devices for people who have respiratory problems.
You were saying some of those folks might need to even consider relocating.
That's a good possibility. So if you don't have battery backup and you are pretty certain that you're in an area where you're going to lose power, think about getting somewhere or calling friends or relatives that might have power, might live in a less impacted area.
Because here's the deal, we don't have a time frame. PG&E keeps saying, well, once we take the power down, we have to go through every inch of line to make sure that there has not been any damage before we can bring those lines back up, which means that we could be looking at least 5 days for people without power, and that can be serious.
Very impactful to anybody who needs power to simply to just get by. So and convenience, and the utility companies know it is too, but we really want to make sure that before power is restored and before things return to normal, that there's not going to be a problem caused by doing so.
Talking with Captain Chris Vestal from Sac Metro Fire. I want to get back over to Madison now for updates as we continuing our continuing coverage.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you to Chris Vestal as well for Sac Metro. Appreciate you both. So we're going to reset here, just really quick, recap what we know. Again, these are power shutoffs for a large area. Take a look at this map, 800,000 customers we're talking about, all in these shaded areas you're seeing on this map right now, covering from north to the Shasta County to Humboldt County, all the way down to the Bay Area, as well as here in our area to closer to Sacramento. So again, we are going to be covering this for you nonstop to make sure that we're making everyone up to speed on what you need to know about these power shutoffs. Again, these are the areas that are shaded right here that we are talking about that will have power shut off as early as midnight tonight and could last for days. And again, Monica, we know this because obviously the winds, that is the main factor here. If you can just kind of bring us up to speed about when we're going to see the winds, how windy it is, all of that.
I know you might be sitting at home thinking, windy right now. Okay, I know the winds are going to pick up, but how many times have we had these wind events, the power gets shut off and nothing happens? May see some spot fires here and there. One of the good things right now is I talked to CAL FIRE a little while ago. This was roughly about a month ago, and said, wow, it just seems like we haven't had the mega fires like we've had in the past couple of years, given it was a little early in the season. But they said one of the good things is that their resources are available to disperse and quickly attack any of the fires that start. So that's kind of what's been going on up to this point in the season. Things start to shift right now, though. In one night, one day, we could see all those resources being deployed to one particular fire event. And then if we see any others, then the resources start to thin out quite a bit. And these are the conditions that sometimes happen when we see those big mega fires developing. Red flag warning in effect, like I said, not until tomorrow morning through Thursday evening. And the area under the red flag warning is actually much bigger than the wind advisory. We'll see that in a slightly smaller area, but it will be Wednesday and Thursday. And this is of note, strongest Wednesday night and then highest over the exposed ridges. Here's the weather pattern that's developing right now. High pressure, it's been bringing the heat. Highs have been close to 90 for the past couple of days. It's in opposition to that, quite a different type of weather system. It is a low pressure system which allows lifting air. Okay, so we've got two different air masses that are basically fighting each other for access to this area. In between that, we get these north winds developing. Those are dry winds. We're going to start to see a shift to cooler weather because of this low starting to really bring in a much different type of weather event. But once things start to break up ever so slightly and the low still is in place over here, we start to see what's called an offshore event. And those are dry winds as they come out of the higher elevations and a lot of over land. Not access to any moisture, so they'll be very dry, and you'll see that develop. Okay, so that's going to be our Thursday event. Watch how these winds almost play out exactly as that weather pattern plays out. We watch the coloring on this map. Any place that's gray is basically light winds. When we start seeing reds, yellows, oranges, those are going to be the concentrated areas of high. Notice tomorrow morning at about 10, they really start to get going on the west side of the valley. May see some impact right there with any spark that starts a fire could spread pretty quickly for places like Yolo, Solano, even up towards Colusa counties, Lake County in on that as well. Valley could see a spark spread a fire pretty quickly with winds at about 20 to 30 miles per hour. Gusts, though, will be closer to about 50 to 55. All right. Now this map looks entirely different, right? Look at how much contour is up here, how much color. It's a lot different. And the areas of focus start to change as well. Thursday at 2 a.m. So this is the time frame that I keep talking about, that Wednesday night, Thursday morning. It's at this point tomorrow night that we really start to shift our focus from a valley event and kind of a west valley event, especially near the river, to really some of the elevations when we start talking about the foothills and the Sierra. And of note is going to be this 80-50 corridor just north of Highway 50 and north of I-80 and then down the hill. So when we consider this pattern of the winds, they're coming from the north and east, blowing south and west. So let's say a fire were to start up the hill, it's going to blow downhill, right? Okay, now let's take a look at this right over here, the coastal valley area as well, and some of those ridge tops there. This tends to be an especially dangerous area. As we continue through our time frame here, now we're at Thursday at 10 a.m. We've only advanced this about 8 hours, and look at how things are starting to shift. Still very strong in the Sierra, Winds very strong on the west side of the valley, and now we're starting to see some real tight focus areas, especially just north of Santa Rosa and through some of those coastal hills. And keep in mind, this is very hilly terrain. If you've ever been over trying to get to the coast and you go up and down and around and bending and curving, those are the types of winds that really get tightly compacted in those small areas. And when they're the offshore winds, they're called Diablo winds in Northern California. Southern California, they're called the Santa Ana winds. And we've seen terrible fire outbreaks from those types of wind events. The setup is pretty much happening right now. Low pressure system off to our east, high pressure off to our west. Dry, warm winds funnel right down into all this land. No access to moisture. They compress, they speed up, and we can have explosive fire growth happening because of that type of wind event. All right, so let's look at the areas that will have the higher fire danger. And it's primarily going to be Northern California in the first part of this weather event here. We're looking at Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon. We're anywhere from the 2 to 4 range here. But then as we start to move through in time frame, what we're going to notice is that that extreme fire behavior starts to shift its way southward into Southern California by the time we get closer to Thursday evening and to Friday. But these types of wind events, we've seen them before. 2 years ago to the date, we had those North Bay fires overnight into early in the morning. So, fierce winds were just going through the canyons with fires that were just spreading their way down the hill. We had embers that were flying and starting new fires far from where that origination happened. These wind gusts were anywhere from about 70 to 80 miles per hour. Again, it was in Sonoma and Napa counties just 2 years ago today. We saw the Tubbs, Nuns, Atlas, and Pocket. Tubbs in particular, until the Camp Fire happened, was one of the most deadly and destructive fires that we had on record. It was really ranking up there at the top. Diablo winds, those are going to be the north to northeast winds. We just talked about this. Those winds that start up high and come down low and push offshore, they accelerate through the hills, resulting in dry, warm winds and explosive fire growth. Folks, this is what's going to be happening about 24 hours from right now. Those are the winds that are going to be setting up and blowing through our area. You're going to hear that wind howling tomorrow night at this time. All right, back to you guys.
Monica, thank you so much.
All right, and of course, like she said, this about 24 hours from now. So what can you do in the interim to get ready?
Right.
There's quite a few things that we wanted to tell you about. So according to PG&E, you need to confirm or update your contact information. That's something that people just take for granted, that their information is the most up-to-date, but of course, it needs updating if possible. Create a safety plan for you and your family. Prepare an emergency kit that includes food and water, and make sure your phones and other devices are charged. You have time now, before that power turns off. Get them updated and make sure that you can get those emergency alerts as they come in. If you have a generator, make sure it works. Learn how to manually open your garage door. We know that this has been an issue in the past. It sounds like a given, but a lot of people don't understand how that would work. Keep a battery-powered radio nearby. Always keep cash on hand. And of course, you need to have a full tank of gas. You never know what's going to happen at the last second. So, a lot of good advice there. A lot of people out in these communities that hadn't expected it before, all of a sudden, this is real. Their power could be shut off. And once it's off, the only time they can get it back on is if they, go out and check those power lines. Every inch of those power lines. I was out with PG&E just a short time ago working on a story, and I was pretty impressed by how thorough they are, making sure that each line they go over it with a helicopter where they can. Where they can't, they try to drive by in their vehicles. You can see one of them right there. But then they also walk the lines where that's not even possible. There's a lot of areas where there is brush covering it, and that's their worst fear, that during a windstorm, something will blow onto those power lines, spark a fire, and then you have a bigger problem than you even started with. So we have to make sure that everything is safe before they can power back up. That could take, about 5 days, perhaps even longer. So we'll have to keep it.
Absolutely. And I know a lot of people asking, is this area going to be impacted? Is where I live going to be impacted? I just wanted to answer one question on here. Debbie McKay is asking if Riverbank and Stanislaus County will be affected by this. And yes, Debbie, that area is on the list for power shutoffs starting as early, potentially at midnight tonight. Now, if you're wondering why PG&E is shutting off power, here is what they told us today.
After
After the unprecedented weather conditions we've seen and the fire seasons we've had the past few years, this is just one tool that we are using to reduce the risk of wildfire and keep our customers. So this is a little bit longer of a weather event than we've seen in previous public safety power shutoffs. So it's once we get the weather all clear, we ask customers to be prepared to potentially be without power for 28 to 48 hours. That's really because we need to inspect those lines that we've shut off for safety.
So, what she said right there is that this is an unprecedented wildfire risk. They said the last time the winds were this high was October of 2017, 2 years ago. A lot has happened in that time. And of course, a lot of precautions that they're taking at this point in time. We heard during the press conference, a lot of people were frustrated. They want to know why or how they're going to deal with all these costs that could be the result of their power shutting off. And PG&E said something that's been in the plans, that you knew that it was coming, that it could happen at any time. And so understandably, people are still quite frustrated about that.
Right, and there is no plan in place, according to PG&E, to reimburse people with costs incurred from this, which again, 800,000 customers also includes businesses. One business is one customer. So this impacts a lot of restaurants and just literally any business you can think of, grocery stores. We did have a couple questions about hospitals. We are looking into that to get back to you all about which, obviously health related departments will be impacted too. But again, the biggest important thing right now is to know if you are included in this, where you live, where your business is, where you go to work, but also what around you is going to be, because we're talking about a large shutoff for 800,000 customers across 34 different counties in our area.
Right, and we had Becca Habiger reporting earlier telling us that, that actual number of people could be over 2 million, over the state population of New Mexico.
Right.
I think that really puts it into perspective just how many people could be affected in these power outages. We said about 34 counties, if I'm not mistaken, that are affected, and the number of people that need resources is exponentially larger. They have these service centers. I forget the exact word that they're using for them, but they were saying that it's where you can go to get power, you can get a drink of water, you can get cool, and they're going to have these in 34 different places as well. They said 28 should be up and running by tomorrow. So, there is an outlet if you need it. Those are being set up by PG&E, and they're encouraging people to use those to take a break, get some reprieve from the heat if your power is shut off.
Also, yeah, we have been, if you're well aware of our docuseries Firepower Money, we have been following PG&E for quite some time now, especially after the Camp Fire and what's going on with the company there. But PG&E was actually in federal court today talking about this shutoff plan. The power monopoly was found guilty of crimes after the 2010 San Bruno gas explosion, which killed 8 people.
Yeah, and keep in mind, PG&E is under court supervision during its 5-year sentence of probation. So ABC 10's Brandon Ritteman explains the judge put a lot of pressure on PG&E to shut off the power during windstorms.
The reason for all these massive shutoff plans is simple. PG&E's power grid can't be trusted to be safe in bad wind. All you got to do is look at the last 2 years when state investigators say PG&E power equipment sparked fires that killed 107 people, including the Camp Fire, the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in state history. The judge handling PG&E's probation almost ordered the company to shut off power lines whenever the wind speed got to a certain level. He didn't do that. Instead, the judge left it up to PG&E to decide when to cut. He says what the dryness of fuels and how many people live in a given area before making the call. Meantime, the company is inspecting its whole power grid and says it's fixing problems with the lines and also trimming back the trees. But PG&E's court-ordered monitor did a whole bunch of surprise inspections this summer to double-check the company's safety work. Those inspections flagged hundreds of problems with the tree trimming job and with PG&E's records to keep track of it. PG&E says it's now making more improvements. The judge said today he looks forward to seeing how this week's shutoff plan plays out. The judge says the goal is for PG&E's power grid to someday be trustworthy enough to, quote, operate safely 100% of the time. But for now, the shutoffs in the judge's view are, quote, more prudent than leaving the power on and burning down an entire county.
All right, and we certainly heard earlier during that PG&E press conference that they're saying, a lot of this has to do with the new normal of all this global warming. That's what they were saying. It's unprecedented because we haven't dealt with these situations before. But you can also see just how fragile that power grid is. It can spark with a strong wind event if it hits another power line. Like we said, if it comes into contact with a tree or any sort of other bush. So right now we're seeing that these steps that are being taken are the result of dealing with this new normal that we have here in California.
Absolutely. And take a look now at the maps here on your screen. These are the county maps PG&E tweeted out today. Now you're looking at Yuba County at the moment, and the areas that are shaded are the areas where power will be shut off. Colusa County, obviously part of that. And then we're going to obviously continue to repost these all night long for you. Calaveras County as well listed on here. It looks like according to kind of the list of the areas that are most impacted in terms of how many customers live are really them, as well as El Dorado, really a lot, 34 counties we're talking about. So, Shasta County is included in this, Humboldt County is included in this, all the way up north to the west, included in this, Sierra. So some counties don't have a lot of customers in them, but again, 34 counties, 800,000 customers is what we're talking about with these power shutoffs tonight.
That's right. And a lot of people are also asking, do my kids have to worry about not being able to go to school tomorrow? That's something that we have been talking about today on our program. And it just depends on where you live, really. I mean, if there's no power, some schools we've heard are still going to have plans to be on or are going to have classes tomorrow. But then we've also heard that if there's no power, there is not going to be any classes. So you can see right now we have posting on our website, abc10.com, that details which schools are going to be closed tomorrow. Definitely worth checking out if you're worried about your kids tomorrow and if you have to make other arrangements for these power shutoffs.
And we're going to continue to update that because, again, we're getting more information by the hour, by the minute from PG&E. The last check we heard from them was around 7 p.m. tonight with the news conference at the PG&E headquarters talking about this entire unprecedented situation. This is the first time of this magnitude they're doing these power shutoffs to prevent a wildfire from happening with the high fire risk that we're dealing with and also the red flag warnings that Monica's been tracking. We're going to have all of that, too, that we're continuing to talk about throughout the night on our team coverage, our live coverage. We've got reporters out in the field right now who are talking to people impacted by this. I believe that Becca Habegger she is in the Solano County area, in Vacaville, Fairfield, in those areas. We also have Daniela Pardo, who's down in the Stanislaus or San Joaquin area, I believe. Stanislaus.
That sounds right.
Yeah, so she's down there as well, talking to people who are impacted. So we really are doing our best here to cover this in every sort of capacity as things change and progress. But again, we would love to hear your questions. We would love to answer those. We're here to help.
And right now, Monica is tracking what's going on in the weather and when you can expect to see that real intense fire danger.
Well, and I have this posted on my Facebook page as well. And so I'm hearing from some of you that are saying, what's going on? There's not much wind right now. No, there's not. You're right. And the winds are going to start to pick up. Right now, they're only at about 5 to 10 miles per hour through the valley. This isn't a situation that we're really concerned with now. It's what happened in a short period of time. Commute, gusty winds, but then we really start to see things change. Here we go. This morning at 10 a.m. It's mainly a west side of the valley event. Pointing out that area, look at the clouds and how they just changed over the past couple of hours since we start off tonight. By 10 a.m. tomorrow. We're talking winds at 30 miles per hour for Fairfield. And those are only sustained winds. That doesn't even include the gusts, which could be closer to 55 miles per hour. Through the day, we're going to start to see things shift a little bit in terms of where the focus areas are for those winds. So let's look at the map here. At Thursday, 2 a.m., the strongest winds are going to be between Wednesday night, Thursday morning. That is an especially dangerous time. Think about it. Everybody's asleep mostly at that time. So if a wind event happens, there's a spark, a fire starts, and we get rapid, explosive fire spread, it's kind of hard to get the message out. Evacuate immediately. The scenario is starts. We may see some power outages just because of some power out because of some trees down, some messy cleanup in the morning. If a spark is it can spread quickly in these types of winds. These are very dry winds. They'll head down the hill. It's uphill. It'll head down the hill here. And the areas that I want to focus on at this time frame are going to be that 80-50 corridor, where we're seeing some in red and even the magenta, those really strong concentrated areas. And then also, I want to head over to the coast here, where we're seeing some areas right through the coastal hills that are getting strong, especially on the rooftops. That's where it could be very dangerous. If something pushes downhill, then start getting more populated communities. And that's happened in the past. Something starts uphill a bit, downhill, and we start into a lot more residential areas. So now we're at Thursday, and again, we still see a focus area in the I-50, I-80 there, moving up into the and Sierra and all the way up through. Again, looking at the western side of the valley, Fairfield, 33 miles per hour wind there, and then over towards the coastal range, starting to see some pockets that are especially concerning, especially since 2 years ago we had those fires. That's where the wind is problematic, is Wednesday night through Thursday. Why this weather pattern set up here. We've got the low pressure system off to our east, high pressure ridge in the Pacific. In between those two, we have very strong north winds that will develop. Things start to shift ever so slightly Wednesday night through Thursday. And that happens because this low starts to take over ever so slightly. Our high moves to the north. Now we're looking at more of an offshore event, which can be even more dangerous than even the north winds. That will really fuel the fire in a much different pattern and a different direction. Red flag warning goes into effect at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning, lasts through Thursday at 5 p.m. Gusty winds, low humidity. We've how much fuel is out there. Anybody that's driven around town knows that everything is just stored. We have a lot of fuel, dried out grasses. That's going to be the main component for the valley. It's going to be the grasses. Once you start the hill, you're talking about a little bit more fuel. You've got oak, you've got grass, you've got brush. And there's a lot more of it to burn. Think back to May. Remember how rainy it was? Well, we got fuel because of that late season rain. Wind advice also placed Wednesday through Thursday. Strong Wednesday night. High exposed ridges. Those are going to be areas we are really going to be focusing and hoping that things starts.
So true, Mike. I'm now with Captain Chris Vestal from Metro Fires talking about this red flag warning. And so what we want to do is talk about your preparations for this event. What do we need to know?
In a region where we have several very professional, super well-staffed fire districts and departments. In the Metro Fire alone, we have about 175 firefighters on every day from fire engines. About 2/3 have specific wildland units. Those are the types of units that are and can respond off-road and are specifically designed to provide structure protection as well as suppress wildland fires. The other thing that we have that's unique in this region and in fact statewide for a local fire department is we have a bulldozer which can cut line around a fire, as well as a helicopter that can drop water, as well as do other things like provide rescue and other resources. But we're very good in this area. Our responses are fast, and we've done very good at keeping fires small.
And so as we prepare for this weather event that is going to be, what, over 2 or 3 days, where you're talking about these winds that are coming in, the fire danger here, just because we're talking about PG&E customers, just because people are thinking, oh, well, that's going to be up in the foothills, it's not going to be down here in the valley, you're saying everyone will be impacted by this.
Exactly. So we have the fine fuel moistures here, which are at their extreme lows right now. Maybe not at the historical level, but very much ready for ignition. So something like simply exhaust from a vehicle that backfires, or if you're going to mow your lawn and you use a metal blade that could spark on a rock, those things could and will likely start a fire because the humidity is low, moistures are low, plus with the winds, that's going to cause extreme fire spread. We have flat lands here, and in flat lands, wind is the #1 driver of the spread of fire.
Talk about generators, because everybody's saying, hey, well, if your power goes out, you need to have a generator. But there are some safety tips that we need to know when it comes to those generators.
Very good idea to have a generator to supply yourself with power and be able to make sure you have communications and refrigeration for your food as well as your medications. But if you're going to do that, #1 thing is have it far away from your home, as far away as possible, so that the carbon monoxide output doesn't seep back inside your home and cause you medical problems. That can actually kill you. It's the same stuff that comes out of a car, unfortunately. So have it far away from your home as far as you can. The other thing is we've had fires caused by generators. Generators get hot, they produce heat. They also have exhaust, which could backfire and put out a spark. So if you're going to use a generator, make sure it's not sitting in vegetation. Make sure it's clear with mineral soil down on the bottom of it for at least about 5 to 7 feet around it.
And you had talked about battery-powered generators as well.
Battery-powered generators are a relatively new product, but they're starting to get on the market where you can buy them for anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000. It will supply a refrigerator for about 20 to 28 hours. And they also don't use gas, so you don't have to worry about the carbon monoxide, and they don't produce any kind of heat or output like exhaust, which could spark a fire.
We've seen so many people asking questions about, well, what if I have a medical issue? What am I supposed to do? And then also, if you turn the power off, if you shut the power off and there are evacuation notices, what is in place to make sure that these people get notified?
Number one, we're going to put out evacuation notices on every device possible. So your mobile and your data connected devices like cell phones and iPads will receive a wireless emergency alert. The other thing is many of the local law enforcement agencies have installed new sirens that will come through your neighborhood. So if you hear a siren that sounds a little different, that probably means it's time to leave. During National Fire Prevention Week, which we're in right now, we advocate having 2 ways out of a structure fire. But in this case, we also want you to have 2 ways out of your community in case of a wildland fire. There might public safety units coming in one way, so you need to have out, or the fire may block or exit.
So prepared is what you're saying.
Correct.
And then when it comes to those medical emergencies, people who depend on electricity to survive, if you will, you were saying you might want to consider relocation.
Great point, Chris. So if you're in an area where you're going to have your power shut off, think about maybe moving to an area with a friend or a relative during this potential outage. It will be better. You won't have to worry about an interruption service or running out of fuel for your generator or whatever your backup plan is. Have that be a temporary solution. Have something else that will be more consistent and a better confirmation of service going forward.
When we talk about the firefighters that you all have in place, you were saying not only are you prepared to fight this from the ground, but that you all also have in place as well.
Metro Fire, we have 2 helicopters, so we only staff 1 at a time. However, during some times, if we have heavy fire activity, we can staff the second one. Both of our helicopters are able to provide fire suppression, so water drops from the sky. Additionally, they're also able to do nighttime rescue and have other operations for rescuing people out of canyons, or we use it a lot on the American River as well. So a lot of resources in this area, a lot of specialized resources, and we're very proud to provide that for our community.
Captain Chris Vestal here with me now, taking your questions, talking with us as we prepare for this major event over the next few days. We are going to go back over to Mike now for any updates that he has there.
All right, Chris, thanks so much. A lot of really good information there. So I just wanted to welcome you if you're just joining us right now on Facebook, on Instagram, on our ABC 10 Facebook page. We wanted to tell you a little bit about this event that's going on right now. So PG&E says 800,000 customers could be affected by power outages that could last up to 5 days. And this covers a wide range of counties. You're taking a look right now, all those counties in green that you see on your map currently. Those are all areas that could be affected by these power outages. PG&E says that's about 34 counties, and there's a good chance that if you're watching this right now, you are going to be affected by a potential power shutoff. The wind event really starts tomorrow, about 24 hours from now, but they're already getting things underway. There are going to be shutoffs starting as early as midnight, they're saying, and lasting throughout the day. So we're also just getting some information at this moment in time from El Dorado County. The Superior Court of El Dorado County would like to assure the public during the impending PG&E power outage that all court facilities will remain open for business. While there may be no telephone or computer access, our employees will do their best to assist the public during this difficult and stressful time. Please be advised that there will be a location change on October 11th only as follows. Department 1 and 2 matters normally heard at 495 Main Street. Placerville will be held in Department 9 and 10 located at 3321 Cameron Park Drive. 5682. However, without power at our Main Street Courthouse, we do not have our servers, so we will be operating old school. In Calaveras County, more than 23,000 PG&E customers will see their power shut off. They're being also asked to conserve water. ABC 10's Lena Howland explains why.
In the hills of Calaveras County, surrounded by lush, beautiful trees, homes are prone to wildfires.
We got to be prepared for anything here.
As the county and thousands of other homeowners across our region prepare for a PG&E power shutoff because of hot, dry, and windy conditions that could last for up to 5 days. Trying to get this message out there. If your power is shut off, conserve your water.
Obviously, without electricity, you're going to rely on backup generation. So if the homeowners have backup generation,
This water district has spent months preparing strategically placing backup generators like this one across the area. But in the event that one of these fails, they say it is critical to conserve your water. They're recommending no extra use of water, no washing cars or filling up pools. They're also urging customers to turn off their landscaping systems, take only short showers, and flush the toilet only when necessary. They say wastewater is their biggest concern, coming from showers, washing dishes, dishwashers, laundry machines, and toilets. So if their backup generators fail, it's possible that waste could back up into your home or even into the street in your neighborhood.
you know, that could be a pretty significant community. So we're going to do everything we can to avoid that, but we really need the help of the community to conserve water. To take the pressure off of those facilities.
If a backup generator fails during the planned blackout, the district says they plan to mobilize immediately, get another portable generator in the neighborhood, or send it right away. But conserving is one thing you can do now to help them in the long run.
So the more that people conserve water, the less water can be in that system at the time the failures and take the pressure off those facilities.
So Granville's warning that their water service is completed by those shutoffs. They say they're actively taking measures to avoid that. However, it's extremely important that everyone conserve water in the event that the shutoff extends beyond a few days. Rebecca Habiger is in Solano County tonight, and she'll have more updates on the concern on Late News tonight at 11. So if you're in Solano County, PG&E will be opening community resource centers at the following locations: Mission Church at 6391 Leisure Town Road, Vacaville, and Six Flags Discovery Kingdom at 1001 Fairgrounds Drive. Vallejo beginning tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. So these locations offer restrooms, bottled water, electronic device charging, and air-conditioned seating. And what we're hearing right now is that a lot of people are asking, you know, am I going to be affected if I am not a customer of PG&E? Well, as it turns out, if you're serviced by SMUD, they're saying that it's not a problem. Same goes for Davis. They're not being impacted by these power shutoffs right now. On your screen at this moment, you can see the various counties that are going to be affected by those power shutoffs. A lot of people in the Bay Area, a lot of people near the Sierra foothills. It affects the northern part of the state as well. So if you're in one of these 34 counties where you can see the power shutoffs on your map, there is a likely possibility that your power could be shut off. Those wind events are starting tomorrow, about 24 hours from now. But during that time, they say that this is going to be an unprecedented wildfire risk. And we've been speaking with people. They've been asking, you know, what can I do? There are a number of things that you can do to get prepared now. Like we said, this wind event starts tomorrow, but power shutoffs could start as early as midnight. And in that time, they say it's really important to make sure that all your devices are charged if you have that opportunity. Just make sure that you have the ability to get any emergency messages that might come onto your phone or other device. So confirm your contact information with PG&E. They say create a safety plan for your family and your pets if you haven't done so already. You want to prepare an emergency kit that includes food and water. And a lot of people right now are reporting that they're asked to conserve their water because they don't know what's going to happen within the next 5 days. Keep phones and devices charged. If you have a generator, make sure it works properly. And as we just heard a short time ago, That means make sure that it's not anywhere in your house. Make sure that it's outside. You don't want to get any of that carbon monoxide poisoning that could come along with something like that. A lot of people don't use generators on a regular basis, so it's a good word of caution. Learn how to manually open your garage. There have been problems with this in the past. People have not known how to do that. There's usually a lever that you can actually push that disengages it from your garage opener. Keep a battery-powered radio nearby. It's something that we are all going to have to get used to in this changing climate. And keep cash on hand and always have a full tank of gas whenever it's possible. Now, we have reporters all over the area. There are bringing stories to us tonight. You're going to have more information as that comes in tonight. Make sure that you stay with us for late news tonight at 11. Right now, let's turn it over to Monica for a check of that weather and when things are changing.
You know, and a lot of this is, okay, so a fire starts, where does it head, right? Because your evacuation route that you may be thinking might work, might not work, depending on where that fire will be heading. So I want to get you prepared in that way as well. Currently, winds really not much of a problem at all. It's overnight tonight through early tomorrow that we start to see things change. And once it changes, it's going to stay there for a while. So tomorrow morning, we start off the day pretty breezy on the morning commute. Just after that time frame, especially on the west side of the valley, that's where we see the biggest focus area. And the way that you can really tell how things are shifting without me even saying anything is by the colors that you're seeing on the maps. Any place that we have yellow, orange, red, purple, those are going to be the areas of highest winds. Purple in particular, and get this, we're going to see some of that coming up here in this wind event. As we make our way through our Wednesday into early Thursday, so through the day tomorrow, the biggest focus area is truly going to be the west side of the valley. As we head through the afternoon and evening, it's going to start to expand both east and west. And some of the areas that we're going to be closely watching are going to be that 80-50 corridor as well as over towards the coastal range. Now, one thing to keep in mind, I mentioned the evacuation routes. Let's say that you have a fire starting and you go, I don't know which way this fire is heading. It can be rather erratic, but when we look at the winds, at least the general wind direction from the east and northeast, that's going to push things south and west. Okay, so just keep that in mind. If you are in an area that potentially has a fire that breaks out, be mindful of where those winds are taking the fire. Most of that will be downhill. Okay, so hopefully that helps you just kind of to visualize where the fire might be headed. If you live in an area, okay, if it's going to be heading downhill, where's my evacuation route? All right, so now we take it through Thursday morning, and the focus area is still obviously in the foothills and the Sierra, also towards the west end of the valley. But now I want to look at just north of Santa Rosa, starting to see some of that purple shading showing up. That is particularly dangerous. We have had wind events there before. The North Bay fires were just 2 years ago to this date, happened overnight, and then we had door to door trying to get people up to get out of their homes. Some of them, as Mike was just mentioning, didn't know how to release that lever for the garages, and they were trapped because they just didn't have any place to go without their car. So you might want to park your car outside if it's safe to do so, just so you have a quick way of getting out of harm's way. Here's the weather pattern that's developing with the dangerous dry winds. And this is generally the setup that we see. It's these two areas that are very, very different, high pressure, low pressure, and in between that, we get those strong north winds. Now get this, things are going to start to change overnight Wednesday to Thursday. It becomes more of an offshore event. Again, northeast winds starting from the north and the east, pushing south and west. These are called Diablo winds in the north, and then over towards Southern California, Santa Ana winds. They're very dry winds that head off of the higher terrain through the valley and push off the coast. So in Sonoma and Napa counties, that's what we had with the North Bay fires 2 years ago. The Tubbs, Nuns, Atlas, and Pocket fires developed from those winds. Diablo winds are north to northeast winds that accelerate through the hills, so they actually speed up. They may start at one speed at the top. As they go through the hills, it actually speeds up. So if it's carrying fire, it's going to carry it even faster. With the dry, warm winds, that's what leads to that explosive fire growth. Here is how that develops again. Low pressure system, and this is a little bit more of a visual explainer here. Here's the winds that are going to be pushing off the coast. And as we see those winds up at the higher elevations coming down, they accelerate and they push. You can about imagine what that does. if a spark starts and a fire starts to grow. So the red flag warning in effect starts up tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., lasts through 5 p.m. on Thursday. Gusty winds, low humidity, and rapid fire spread, and we're talking throughout all of northern and central California. Now it will expand to southern California as well. This is a statewide event going on here. And then our wind advisory in place, that'll be Wednesday through Thursday, strongest Wednesday night into early Thursday morning, and then highest over those exposed ridges. Again, for those of you that live in those areas, just be prepared. The fires generally, if they start, will be heading down the hill. It won't be the case necessarily with some stronger gusts in there, so it won't be very unidirectional. There may be some spread in other directions, but that gives you a little bit of a sense of how things could develop as we head into Wednesday and Thursday.
All right. Thanks, Monica. And as she just said, you want to make sure that you have a plan in place before anything happens. And one of the things that we are unsure of is what's going to happen with the roads out there. So Caltrans tweeted out tonight saying that they're preparing to close down the Caldecott Tunnel in the East Bay and the Lantos Tunnel in Pacifica due to PG&E's power shutoffs across the Bay Area. So Caltrans says the full closure of the tunnels could happen as early as tonight. According to San Mateo County, though, the Lantos Tunnel is expected to close at noon tomorrow. The California Highway Patrol is encouraging drivers if possible. But here's what we're learning. These closures could last for as long as 5 days. So that would significantly impact a lot of people. Thousands of people take those tunnels every day. The agency said the tunnels can't operate without power. And here's why. Kevin Rose, manager of the Office of Emergency Services for San Mateo County, said that when the power's shut off, there'll be no fire suppression system in those tunnels, so they have to shut them down. The transportation agency said it's working with PG&E to equip the tunnels with emergency power, so there's a chance that they could stay online and stay in operation. So the Caldecott Tunnel connects Contra Costa and Alameda counties along Highway 24. The Tom Lantos tunnels, also known as Devil's Slide tunnels, are a major north-south artery that runs through the county and carries thousands of commuters. As of now, BART is the one thing that we're hearing is expected to remain open during these power shutoffs.
Yeah, we know there's going to be a lot of impact to traffic come tomorrow morning, especially with these shutoffs, no matter where you are. And we don't know really how it's going to impact parts of transportation. We do know that Caltrans is actively watching the situation. They've been doing that as well. To find the most up-to-date information at the PG&E would be their page, as well as our page. Of course, we're retweeting as much as we can with the information that's coming in. But also Caltrans is going to be tweeting information that you need to know about your morning commute as well. So again, back to some of these tweets with the county maps here. So this is Solano County. That's where we have Becca Habegger tonight. She is going to be talking to people in Fairfield and Vacaville as well. These are all the county maps that they have tweeted out. El Dorado County, now you're taking a look at that. I know we do have a lot of people asking about like Ceres and Manteca. To our knowledge, Ceres and Manteca are not on the list of areas that could have their power shut off. But of course, as things progress, we will make sure to update you all as well. San Joaquin County, you're just taking a look at. Stanislaus County is right here. You're seeing 3 different areas in that county that will have the power shut off. Again, you can find all of these on our Twitter page, also on PG&E's Twitter page. Their handle is PG&E. And that's where they've been tweeting these maps as well. I know a lot of people have been sharing the list of areas that are going to be these shutoffs. I've posted that to my Facebook page if you just want to go there and look at that for yourself. That way you can tag whoever you know who lives in that area. The more you know about the situation, the better, because again, it could come as a surprise to some who may not be watching the news or may not be up to date on what this power shutoff really means, because it's not just the power is going to be off for a couple hours.
That's right.
That's not the case here. It's going to be off for days. And they said anywhere from 24 hours to 48 hours, but it could also be up to 5 days.
That's right. And they're saying 800,000 customers could be impacted. That's over 2 million people from our assessments so far at this time. And a lot of people want to know, are my kids going to have school tomorrow? So we also have an article up on our website, abc10.com, where you can find the latest information on that. We'll continue to update it as we know more. Of course, this is a quickly developing situation. We heard that from PG&E. We've been hearing that from various law enforcement officials. People are just trying to figure out at this moment in time where power is going to be shut down. Regardless, though, even if power shut down for just a short period of time, PG&E has to go through and inspect all of those lines inch by inch to make sure that nothing is wrong before they repower everything back up. The danger there is that something could have blown onto those power lines, something could have sparked in that time, and you just don't know. So you have to inspect each and every inch of those lines. So we want to tell you a little bit about power lines in general. Brandon Riddiman has the latest on what we know about how these lines start fires.
I want to show you a moment you rarely get to see in real life. The moment a power grid sparks a fire. The vast majority of those fires start on distribution lines. That's industry talk for these, the power lines in your neighborhood, usually up on wooden poles. The fire hazard mainly comes from trees growing too close. You get a big windstorm and it blows part of the tree into the line. Sparks shower down onto the ground below, and now you've got a fire up and running with the wind. Some version of this is what was behind most of the fires blamed on PG&E in 2017, and it shows you why the law requires power companies to keep trees trimmed back. Simply put, power lines are more likely to start a fire during the kind of weather that's most dangerous, bad wind. But this sort of thing doesn't tend to happen on the kind of power line where the campfire started. On that day, PG&E says it had a problem with a transmission line. We're talking about these towers that carry voltage over huge distances. Usually when you get bad wind, these lines should be safe because they're taller than the trees. But on that day, the wind may have experienced a different problem. PG&E says it had a weak link, an old hook was worn down. It appears to have been in the wind. That may have been part of the line to swing free and hit its half, showering the brush below in wind metal. Of course, it had a steep hill that was really hard to reach. By the time fire crews showed up, there was no stopping it. When the fire got to the hilltop, it started to shower all of paradise in embers. That's just one small part of our 3-episode series, Fire, Power, Money. We made it really easy to watch at your own pace and share with anyone you want. Just go to firepowermoney.com or search Fire, Power, Money on YouTube.
Yeah, of course, we've seen how the world is changing. We've seen how our area is continually experiencing hotter and hotter temperatures,
Right.
drier and drier conditions. And during the news conference tonight, they said basically these moisture temperatures are at their moisture levels are at their lowest in a very long time. The wind is at one of its highest wind situation like this in 2 years, since October of 2017. And that's when we had a lot of fires that caused a lot of damage in the area.
Yeah, definitely the north and to this day, 2 years ago, we talked about earlier, Monica, to kind of take us back to what those winds were like that night, with not what it's going to be like again tomorrow. So it's just really important to make sure you know what to do to prepare in case of a power shutoff if you're in the list of these 34 counties and 800,000 customers affected by this. It's a significant event. It's the first massive magnitude event for PG&E with these power shutoffs that they've had since they've implemented this new program that they're doing to mitigate the fire risk and also the cause of fires as well. We are getting some more comments from people. One did stand to read because, Teresa Saturn, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name right. I apologize. But she said, well, who wants to be the next Paradise? Right. She said, not me. I know students who lost everything because of this fire. I also know a colleague who lost everything because of the Paradise fire. Again, that fire happened November 8th, so a month from today. We'll be there at the 1-year mark later. And again, we are just talking about everyone's prepared tonight. If you have questions, if you have comments about what you're dealing with, please let us know. We can get those questions answered to the best of our ability.
That's right. A lot of people forget that fall can be one of the worst seasons when it comes to this. You've had the whole season where the sun has literally diminished that moisture in all the vegetation around the area, and this is kind of the worst case scenario. And the other thing that a lot of people don't take too seriously is that these warnings need to be heeded because you don't know what can cause that fire. At any moment, a spark can be blown by these winds, and once that happens, it just takes off. So all of these communities that you see marked here in blue or even green on your screen, what you're seeing right now is areas that could be impacted by these power shutoffs. 800,000 customers in 34 different counties around the area. It's not just here, it is a statewide issue that everyone will be dealing with. But you can see, especially in the Bay Area, especially people in communities along the Sierra, they're dealing with extreme dangerous weather, red flag conditions all around. And we've talked before in the past, when you have these red flag warnings, you have to treat them like people would treat tornado warnings. Typically, if you've ever lived in a tornado prone area, you hear that siren, you know to take cover. Well, here's the red flag warning. There's no siren, but at the same time, you have to take it just as seriously. All these people that could be impacted by these power shutoffs, that fire danger exists everywhere. As we heard earlier from Sacramento County officials, yes, people who are living in Sacramento County don't have this danger at the moment, but they still have this red flag warning. They are still at risk. And you have to make sure that you have everything ready for the worst case scenario at all times. It's just the new normal that we live in.
Absolutely. And we know this is impacting a lot of schools in the area. It's impacting a lot of businesses. We're keeping everything up to date on our website. Also our app, ABC10. If you just search in the App Store, that's where you'll be able to see the list of schools that are going to be closing, what those schools, where they are. We're making sure that you're all up to date with that in terms of school closures as well as business closures once we hear those. Another thing that we're going to continue to monitor for you is just the fact of when power will actually be shut off. We aren't planning on going anywhere in terms of stopping this coverage for you. So we're going to do our best to make sure we know and let you know when power is going to be shut off too.
Yeah, and right now Chris Thomas is standing by with the latest information about what you can do to stay prepared in case this happens.
That's right. I am here with Captain Chris Vestal from Sac Metro Fire, and we are actually getting some breaking news in that you all are already now starting to deploy for this event.
Right, and that's something that you'll see happening throughout Northern California. California Office of Emergency Services does pre-deployment of fire resources. So we might see fire engines being moved to some of the areas that are higher risk, but specifically at Metro Fire, we have a request for one of our bulldozers to deploy to the Sonoma Lake Napa unit to St. Helena. So what's going to happen there is that will start moving that direction overnight. And by morning, we'll actually restaff our second bulldozer here locally in the Sacramento region.
And so this is an active event that folks are now already getting in place for this event. This is why you see us doing this live breaking news coverage throughout the night. We want folks to know that people are preparing for this red flag warning that we've been telling people about. What can folks do right now to make sure that they're not pulling from your resources unnecessarily?
Right, so take our lead. We're moving stuff so that we can better protect the entire state. And your local, state, and federal resources are part of that, but we need your help as well. So think about the things that we've already told you. Have your generators far from vegetation. If you're going to be towing a trailer, make sure that your tow chains are properly secured and not dragging on the ground, causing sparks. Don't do yard work. It's too late, quite frankly. You're not going to make a difference in very few. We're going to have winds before you wake up. About 4 a.m. is when winds are really going to move. So by the time you wake up, you're late to do yard work, be safe, reduce the open flames in the wildland, and don't do anything that could start a spark.
In Sacramento County, talk about the staffing and what you all are doing to make sure that you are prepared for whatever blows in here.
Fortunately, we have high fire danger throughout the Sacramento region throughout the summer season. So in a response to an event like this, we're going to maintain our staff. We have about 175 firefighters, a helicopter, and a bulldozer that are always staffed. One of the unique things that we do in this region, however, is when we send resources out, we backfill them with more personnel and also more apparatus. So we never decrease our staffing levels here locally to support the rest of the state. We will decline to send stuff if we can't make sure that our service delivery here is maintained. That includes our emergency medical service response for medical aids, but mainly for fire suppression this time of year, it's a priority of ours.
One thing that we wanted to try to make folks understand is that it's all hands on deck, that when something like this rolls in, you're making sure that you've got crews at the ready, because as we see 800,000 customers from PG&E alone facing power outages starting as early as midnight. It's a big deal. People say maybe here in the valley, well, maybe we're not impacted. You're saying
Everyone's impacted. You cannot have your power go out literally from a planned power shutoff, but what can happen is a local emergency could cause that, whether it's a fire, strong winds knocking over a power line or a transmission line, or any other type of event which could cause that. If we have a fire here, it will impact other regions. If there's a large fire outside of our region, it will impact us as well. We saw last year the air quality that was so poor during the campfires. Everything that happens in Northern California affects everybody. That's where we all need to be good stewards of our environment.
One of the things that we've been talking about well is the morning commute and how people need to maybe perhaps give themselves a little extra time. We just don't know how many of our neighbors are going to be impacted by this power shutoff.
Absolutely. So we're going to start migrating to other areas where they won't be as affected. So that could create different travel routes and people coming into regions. Sacramento, we have a lot of people coming from the foothills and the other areas that are impacted because we're a big metropolitan area with a lot of resources, a lot of housing, where other people can actually find refuge and support services for what they're not able to find in their local area for a few days, anywhere from 2 to 5.
We cannot stress that enough. One of the other things that I want to stress is, because we keep hearing this, especially on our social media pages, people concerned about the elderly, people concerned about people who perhaps are depending on electricity for medical assistance, people concerned about those who are definitely going to need emergency assistance should this thing last for an extended period of time. What are you saying to those folks tonight?
First thing is, try and make sure that you have those resources for yourself if you're one of those people that needs medical supplies and devices. However, if you have family or friends that use those or are insulin dependent or other medication dependent that have certain temperatures that need to be held at, reach out to them. See if you can help them and support them, and if need be, offer to house them for a few days until their power is turned back on.
And one of the other things that I was saying too is that a lot of times folks are not paying attention. The sun is shining today, the wind wasn't that big of a deal. Perhaps they haven't been paying attention to the news. They need to contact as many people as they can. Contact mama them and Pookie them and cousin and uncle and everybody else and let them know, hey, there is an issue. We are running into a red flag warning, and firefighters want you to know it because you all have some serious work to do over the next few days.
Sometimes like a day like today where it was near 90 degrees and we think that today has a higher fire danger. However, tomorrow when we drop down into the 70s, strong double-digit winds, just talking to Monica, gusts in the 50 to 70 mile per hour range, maybe even higher in some of the gaps. So it is very serious. The temperature has less effect than the wind and the humidity. Our fuels are already dry. They're ready to burn. If there's a spark, these winds, the humidity will absolutely cause it.
One of the things you were telling me too was that the humidity is about as worst as it's going to be tomorrow. Talk about that.
So north winds are super dry. Those winds move over the Great Plains through the lands which dry out the winds as that moves over from Northern California down into the south through the valley. That actually sucks moisture out of the vegetation. Everything wants to be at a homeostasis between the vegetation as well as the air. However, there's no vegetation left to suck out of the vegetation into the air. So already this dry air is going to suck anything left out of the vegetation, which there isn't any. We're ready to burn. And likely there will be fire starts tomorrow because fires are easier to start tomorrow. Our key is going to be to make sure that we suppress them early.
Okay, that was the breaking news update that we wanted to give you, that crews are already asking for help from Sac Metro Fire to send over a dozer to help as they prepare for these red flag warnings. You're telling us you've got close to 200 firefighters in place ready to respond. Will come up in the coming days. You're asking people to take the steps that they can right now to make sure that they are prepared.
That's correct. That's 200 just at Metro Fire and more with our surrounding agencies.
Okay, for now, we'll step back to Marissa.
Thank you so much, both of you, Chris Vestal and Chris. We are having a lot that you're not able to access the PG&E to see where this area is going to be impacted if it is in this list of 34 counties. So we want to help you out a little bit. So just give us a minute. We're going to try our best to make sure we respond to each and every one of you. We did have someone, it looks like Audrey was asking about Lincoln. So we're going to zoom on the area to show you which areas, the blue shaded area is what's going to be turned off when it comes to power. So I don't know exactly where you are on this map, Audrey, but if this helps at all in terms of proximity wise, so you can kind of see again what areas are going to be impacted come as early as midnight tonight. The power could be shut off. So again, we're going to continue to follow this closely. We have a couple people asking about Manteca. Manteca is not on the list right now, and Anne Marie. Zoom in on Manteca now. It looks like, gosh, we've got a lot of questions here. Newman is another one people are asking about. Evelyn is asking about Newman. Again, we're going to continue our best to get all these answers for you because we are well aware that the PG&E's website is not loading. I just tried to go on it myself to see if I could zoom in and look, and it would just spinning wheel the whole time. So they are aware of that. That's why they're tweeting as well.
Yeah, very frustrating, of course, if that is you and you are trying to find out if your area is affected. Of course, we'll continue to have updates for you here at 11 o'clock on Late News Tonight. And of course, you can always check out our website, abc10.com. We'll have it there as well. If you haven't downloaded our app, check it out. Our new ABC 10 app will give you a lot of good information.
And can we zoom, Rachel, our producer, if you don't mind just zooming into Stockton really quick? We've got several people asking about Stockton, Modesto, those areas as well. So Stockton is all clear. That is what we're seeing here on this map. And then Modesto, just a little bit south from there. Yeah, we're trying to get zoomed in there. All clear on Modesto as well right now. So again, this map we have and we can send to you. If you would like to see it for yourself, just text 916-321-3310. And this is the map that you'll be able to zoom in and look at your area as well. I know we have a lot about these certain cities and areas too, so we'll to answer each and every one of you. Just give us a couple minutes to figure that out as well.
And as I said, everything is in flux, so see on the map right now, you know, it could change a little bit. Yep. Keep that in mind as you do progress in the next couple of days. We don't exactly know what's going to happen. They say right now 800,000 customers will be affected, but 34 counties are involved in that entire area. I also did want to draw your attention to one thing that Chris Thomas did say, and I don't think I don't want to overlook it. If there is a chance that power to sustain life, you need it for medical reasons, give those friends and neighbors a call who might live in faraway destinations and stay with them for a few days. Make sure that you take care of yourself first because you don't know what's going to happen. All these areas are affected by red flag warnings, and we're going to continue to monitor this. We just don't know what's going to happen the next few days. Power shutoffs could start as early as midnight. We're also hearing 5 a.m. for a lot of different people, and then we'll get those very treacherous wind conditions in less than 24 hours from now. So when that sets in, we just don't know what's going to happen, but we have heard that various roadways could be affected, various transportation hubs, tunnels in the area, especially in the Bay Area, are going to be affected, and they are likely to be shut down. So make alternate arrangements, make sure that you are taking care of your health and safety first, and give yourself the best shot possible if you are inflicted by these weather conditions.
And Rachel, do you mind just going over to Marin County really quick? We've got Chuck Taylor asking about Marin County. I don't really have a specific area, Chuck, but if you want to chime in and let us know. But yes, if you're looking this right now, there are definitely parts of Marin County that are going to be affected by this. You're taking a look at the map of the Bay Area. Again, you can see, the Oakland area as well. Gosh, that's where my aunt lives over there. She's going to be impacted by this, so there's a lot of people in the Bay Area definitely going to be feeling the impacts of these power shutoffs. But it looks like parts of Marin County are included here too, Chuck. We saw that.
And it's important to keep in mind that even if you are not in one of these areas, and let's say you seem to be safe at the moment, you are still under a red flag warning, which means that you have to still take extra precaution. We do know that energy districts, including the SMUD district, is not affected by this. The Davis district is not affected by this, but you are still under a red flag warning. So take it seriously and make sure that you prepare for the worst.
Yeah, and we also are getting a couple more people asking about cell towers. And I know we heard from Verizon today. Give me a second. I'm looking up exactly what their response was to the inquiry about if cell towers will go down or not.
Yeah, we're all so dependent days. A lot of our landlines entirely. And, you know, in an instance like a fire, it could be damaged.
Right. So this is Verizon, just Verizon. We haven't, I don't think, gotten statements from other carriers, but so far Verizon says they're prepared to keep customers connected during any disruption in commercial power. Their network reliability is based on having a comprehensive backup power strategy that should commercial power be lost due to an emergency. So they have generators, is what they're saying, and backup batteries at the majority of their cell sites, their cell towers, and all of our switch locations, network nerve center to keep our network up and running if commercial power is lost. So they have generators, they've got batteries, and they also are able to refuel their generators to keep them running. This is the backup plan for them when it comes to something like this. So the likelihood of cell towers being turned off, according to Verizon, is unlikely. But again, we will know that really does start the wind event that we've been talking about tomorrow.
Yeah, and we haven't seen an event like this in 2 years. October of 2017 was the last time, and that's when we had the North Bay fires. We've been talking about it a lot tonight, and they started in conditions just like the ones that we're expecting.
Yeah, and our new series, The New Normal, we took a close look at those fires. We heard from first responders who were on scene, body camera video of them rescuing people door to door. So here's a look back at the North Bay fires.
Sheriff's office! You couldn't see anything. It was like a wall. Fire!
Block after block after block of destroyed neighborhoods.
God damn!
Oh my God. This was like Armageddon. It was a normal Monday for me, which was be a Sunday. Sunday was my Monday night, and got ready to go to work. I think my wife was on the freeway at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and texted me a message saying it's super, super windy. And
I remember that evening, that afternoon, it was definitely, you could feel it was dry, you could feel it was warm, breezy, kind of an eerie feeling.
About 8:30, noticed the wind's picking up, the fire department's just getting dispatched to little fires here and there.
And my work phone was just going off with incident after incident.
Around 9:30, 2 of our deputies got dispatched to Highway 128 to the Napa County line to help with traffic control on a fire.
At the same time, there was the equivalent of a third alarm fire in downtown Santa Rosa. So around 10:45, I put on my uniform, got in my work truck at home, and drove into Santa Rosa.
I kind of started hearing scanner traffic about a fire, and then literally within minutes, our sergeant was saying, we need to all go up there and start evacuations.
That fire would become the Tubbs Fire. The next several hours would unfold as a chaotic race against time and nature.
Sonoma County Sheriff's Office, mandatory evacuation order, leave your homes.
And then essentially started working our way back down towards Santa Rosa, knocking on doors.
It's time to go, like right now.
Telling people you need to leave. How much time do we have? The fire is literally 100 yards away. You have no time.
We need to go. Stay firm. We got to keep pushing the evacuations as far west as we can.
That I just left my siren on and just got on my PA system and just started yelling this to the fire department. The fire department, you need to evacuate immediately.
Go! Go!
People yelling or screaming.
Okay, you go get your keys. I'll get her downstairs. Come on, ma'am. I know, this is bad. Oh my God. Let's stay right here until he gets the keys. You're fine, you're fine. Is our house on fire?
You know, essentially you're being chased by the fire. The winds, I've never seen anything like that. 60, 70 miles an hour. Watching embers sideways across the highway.
I copy. George 4,
Around this time, residents in Santa Rosa's Coffee Park neighborhood neighborhood began waiting.
A bunch of other neighbors came, like just standing in the middle of the street, and one of our neighbors came running around the corner as fast as she could, and she was like, it hopped the 101, hopper's on fire, get out, get out, get out. And we didn't say another word to each other. It was like a second of stunned silence, and then we just ran into our homes and started to evacuate.
On the other side of town, Deputy Aldridge was helping an elderly couple evacuate their home in the hills.
All right, let me get her feet,
So I went to the house, helped them get their cats. We threw them in their car.
Stand before we're doing a carry out. Ready?
They started the drive back down.
Mark West is nearly impassable at this point.
And my sergeant, who had the body camera footage, told me that they were impassable. Turned around with about, by this time, 3 or 4 cars behind me, maybe 5. I told them to everybody turn around, and we went back to the Mark West Lodge, which is literally the only place.
So what you're telling me is that in that moment while you were trying to evacuate people, you yourself got trapped?
Yep. Told dispatch, I'm stuck. I got like 3 dozen people with us, and we just waited.
Oh, don't hit me. God damn it. Get out here. I'm in a bad spot. Ooh.
The fire now fully engulfing entire neighborhoods in Santa Rosa.
It was like we flipped the switch and tried to evacuate upwards of 100,000 people in hours.
Some of our neighbors were going door to door, banging on people's doors, waking them up. One of my neighbors evacuated in only his boxers.
Neighbors became first responders.
Santa Rosa city bus drivers also jumped into action, evacuating hundreds of people, including many elderly at senior living centers. As they drove through Coffee Park, those passengers seeing flames on either side.
You know, I remember driving and visibility going to nothing.
It looked like charcoal briquettes, or like golf ball-sized embers would hit in the middle of the street and just start blowing down the middle of the street.
I mean, were you ever in this situation where you thought you guys weren't going to get out?
The fire came within about 100 yards of the lodge. That was probably the only time I go, I don't know, crap moment. Other than that, the fire pretty much burned around us. But you can hear trees exploding, propane tanks. And the hardest part is being light with everybody. You know, I mean, trying not to, you know, you got to keep them calm.
Finally, more.
I drove through Coffee Park Monday morning, and it was like, holy crap. It's like a different word I had, but there was devastation. Then my wife tells me Kmart burned. Excuse me? How the hell did that store burn?
We decided to come in the back way and made our way in, and that's where we just saw everything. And so we just stood in the top of our driveway and just looked at the nothingness that was there and cried. And
When you left that night, did you have any sense that you would never be returned to your home?
No, not at all. I put on my uniform and got in my work truck and didn't take anything else beyond that, thinking I'll be back by the next morning if at the worst case scenario.
Paul Lowenthal was one of 7 firefighters with the Santa Rosa Fire Department to lose his home that night. But that wasn't the focus for any of them.
Realized right away that it's gone, and then immediately shifted gears and then continued on for the rest of that night.
The Tubbs fire alone burned nearly 37,000 acres between Calistoga and Santa Rosa. It destroyed more than 5,600 structures and took the lives of 22 souls.
It was a pretty intense night.
What are you most proud of from that night?
Living, not dying. What everybody did. No questions, they just did it.
For so many, the recovery has not been easy. But now, more than a year later, rebuilding is finally underway.
What do you think of the progress? A year later, would you have expected more to be done?
I mean, there's still people that are living in hotels. There's still people that are couch surfing and can't get past the mental block of rebuilding because it's too hard to revisit. So it's really hard to gauge where it should and shouldn't be just based on that fact. But I think we're in a great spot.
A little over a year later now, how is the department doing?
Good. But there's been times, you know, I walk outside and I get nervous, but you shake up, go to work. It was definitely something I don't want to do again. I'll put it to you that way. Once in a lifetime is enough.
And that was 2 years ago tonight.
That's
the
right.
North Bay fires, Monica.
Yep.
This is why we're having this conversation. This is why we are going live on this breaking news right now, because it could impact so many people.
And it was an overnight event. You know, tonight we're not necessarily going to see those winds. It's going to be tomorrow night into early Thursday morning. And the deal with that is it started up the hill. For those of you that aren't familiar with Coffee Park, that actually sits down to the west of where the origination of the fire happened. But again, we've been talking about how those winds compress and they speed up as they head down the hill, meaning if it's carrying fire, it's going to speed up. You also heard in that story that they were surprised the Kmart burnt down.
Right.
Because guess what? That's quite a distance from Coffee Park. The embers were flying and
the wind
sparking
carries
new,
it.
exactly, new fires were starting. Now we saw that to some degree as well for Paradise with the campfire. But that just shows you how explosive fire behavior can happen when we have this type of wind event. You know, Chris Vestal was just joining us from SAC Fire, and he was saying the same thing.
And the main thing is, we've got that red flag warning. We've got it up right here behind us. What do we need to know for tomorrow?
So this shaded area here, and you'll notice it extends all the way over to the Bay Area, North Bay Area, over towards the Sierra. Tahoe Basin itself, not necessarily under that red flag warning, and we'll actually see some of that expire a little bit earlier than, say, the Valley and the Bay. Gusty winds, low humidity, and really the biggest threat is going to come Wednesday night to Thursday morning. I was doing a little bit of analysis, and it looks like the strongest winds will be in the North Bay Hills.
Oh my goodness.
Right around Santa Rosa again. We're talking wind gusts over 65 miles per hour.
But you know what, Monica? Everybody keeps saying, well, you know, PG&E, sure, we understand that. But Sacramento, right here in the middle here, and it's right there in the zone as well. What impacts are we thinking Sacramento is going to see?
You mean as far as why we're not seeing power outages there?
And what will be the impact as far as those winds? And is the fire danger very real for us as well?
Down trees, debris, driving hazards. Anybody that lives in the valley, you know how dry everything is right now. You get one spark, a car pulls over, having car problems, it's overheated. It can spread something very quickly. The difference in the valley is that we have just a little bit, we have a lot of urban areas, a lot of concrete, not as much of the, we don't have the oak, we don't have the much brush. Different fuel here in the valley, and we can usually attack it a little bit sooner. Some of these other areas, it has such rolling hills and different terrain that if it gets stuck in one of those canyons or starts up top, comes down low, your resources, they've got to divide and conquer.
You were telling me a
containment.
very emotional story, too, about you actually had a chance to go back to Coffee Park. And meet with some of the people who lost everything.
Right, so I went back there because I was doing a story actually about how many areas actually are like Coffee Park, including even Cameron, which is from El Dorado Hills. And when I went back to Coffee Park, just to get a sense of the lay of the land, I ended up running into and I said, "Oh, is it your home?" And he said, "No, it's actually my son's home." And I wanted to find just a little piece of something. And I said, "Oh," he said, "a ring." I don't know. I gave him these Lionel train cars. I had collected them as a child, and I gave them to him. I was just hoping maybe I'd find a little train car or some piece of it. And we're digging through the rubble together, and he goes, "Oh, how about that? How about that?" He goes, "This is part of a Lionel train car."
Gosh.
And he said, "It doesn't mean much now because the rest of the train is gone." But he said, it made it through.
Well, that's the thing, though. When you lose every single thing you have, sometimes it can mean so much to people when you can find something that brings back a memory to you and your family. One of the main things, Monica, we always talk about is that you are so much more than just giving folks numbers on a screen or talking about the humidity or all of that type of stuff. You really do weave a story for us to see how these numbers are going to impact our daily lives.
Well, and I asked my bosses, I said, I want to go there. The giving the numbers, just telling you the conditions can be somewhat hollow. I want to actually be able to understand how these winds are developing, why they're moving in a different direction than, say, 15 years ago. What change that we're seeing? Because ultimately, my only purpose is to keep every one of those, every you, me, we safe.
That's right.
In the thing, I can't tell how many days I cried for the campfire. You know, collecting clothes from family friends from my own house, saying, how can we get things to people? Everybody just gathered around, and every time I did it, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't. It's it's hard.
It's so hard. And so, Monica, that's why, as we wrap up and get ready to send back over, stress for us the importance of why this is going to be such a big event.
It's because of the wind direction and what time of year we're in. Think about it. We haven't had rain since May, significant rain. We've had little bits here and there. All that did was to green up something for 5-6 hours at most, and then it's right back to the dry brush. And that late season rain actually added additional fuel for us. Now we've got a little bit later start to the fire, real deep fire season. But these are the times of year, if you look back on the top 10 deadliest, most destructive fires, you're going to find many of them that happen in that October, November timeframe. And it's because we just have so much that we can burn. And these winds, when they're that dry, can spread something so quick.
That's right. Well, we are going to be here. That's why we're here for folks throughout the night. We're getting ready for late news tonight as well on the air at 11 o'clock. We are working around the clock to make sure that you all are informed as this event moves through. Madison and Mike?
Thank you so much. We really do appreciate it. And, you know, Monica, I think what you were talking about with just the fires and the community, like that I felt too, you know, covering the campfire, covering, just going back to Coffee Park, seeing that it's just a normal neighborhood and the fire jumped the 101 and went over there. It's just, this is why we're talking about this tonight, because, you know, reliving those destructive and deadly fires, no one wants that.
Right. And we've all been there now. We've all covered stories that pertain to these different areas and talked to the people who have lived through it. It's heartbreaking, but it's also inspiring to see the way that people are able to recover when they do go through these sorts of tragedies. If you are in Paradise right now, you'll see rebuilt from the ground up, literally. The entire town, for the most part, burnt down. The resilience are remarkable. But at that point where this isn't a constant issue, and we want to make sure that we take all precautions possible to make sure that we're safe. So right now, PG&E is saying they're going to be turning off the power potentially to 800,000 customers, and we're going to keep you updated. So the San Francisco Chronicle is reporting that there is a major update. Bay Area blackout won't begin until noon. So PG&E says the power shutoffs will not happen all at once on Wednesday. The company will implement one round of shutoffs starting in the northern part of the state from midnight until 4 a.m.
Got it. So again, that's for the Bay Area only. That we just got that from the San Francisco Chronicle. They're reporting the blackout won't happen until noon. We do have a lot of people on here. I'm watching our live stream as we talk, saying, you know, wondering about Pacifica, San Jose. So there you go. That is the latest update we have for you in terms of the Bay Area and what you need to know. So we're zooming in now to Pacifica because, again, that's one of the areas it looks like that it's actually not affected by this. So that's an update for a lot of the people here who are asking about that.
I do want to just add that the Tom Lantos tunnels are potentially going to be shut down, and that will be in that area. So keep that in mind if you are, and you know, you're trying to figure out your route to work.
Right. And again, the map that Monica and Chris just had behind them, that was for the red flag warning only. That was not the power shutoff. I know it pretty much looked like everything was red, and that is only for the red flag warning. I know a lot of people on here are saying, oh, it includes us in Sacramento. And, you know, Shannon just commented all of Sacramento, and that's not the case. Sacramento's not part of this power shutoff grid at all. Our county is not on the list. So that, just not to confuse you all, but that's the map that was behind Monica and Chris was the power shutoff map, or was the red flag warning map. This is the power shutoff map that we're showing you now. What is shaded is going to be areas that shut off is midnight tonight.
And a lot of people, of course, are affected. We said 800,000 customers that could be 2 million people, otherwise known as the state of New Mexico. That many people. It's a huge number of people that could potentially be impacted. A lot of people want to know, is my area the one that's affected? As you can see, these are the different areas that could potentially be affected by a power shutoff. We have 34 counties, many areas. Most of these are in the Bay Area along the Sierra. And as you can see, northern and even southern parts of the coverage area. So a tremendous field at this time. They're saying that this is unprecedented wildfire risk. They have to think in October of 2017. So a lot of people living in this area.
Zoom in now to McKinleyville to see which part of that is included in the power shutoffs. And yes, you are taking a look at McKinleyville, that will be included here in the power shutoffs. We're not so sure what time that one will happen, because we had a couple people asking about that. We also have someone asking about Colusa County. Colusa County is included. It's one of the 34 counties included in the power shutoffs. It looks like Gabby says that she received a text, but she only sees Colusa County, Williams, Arbuckle, though. And yes, if you received a text from PG&E that your power will be shut off, that is, I would say, most likely true.
Yeah, and if you think your power is going to be shut off, now's the time to get prepared. There are many ways that you can ensure that you at least have the best possible chance of knowing about any potential emergencies, any possible shutoffs. And the main thing right now is charge everything that you possibly can. Make sure that your phone has some juice in it. If you have one of those portable chargers, which a lot of people do these days, make sure that that's also supplied. And you want to make sure that you know what things in your house require power. One thing that people don't think about is your garage door. If it's power open, do you know how to pull that latch to make it manual if you need it?
And we also have, too, Rachel, if you can zoom in on Corning in Tehama County. That's going to be an area that obviously is just right off of I-5. So it's hard to know for sure if the Tehama County in general is going to be, but Corning is clear, it looks like, according to this map. But see the blue around it? Yeah, so that's good to know, because it includes, if that's I-5 that we're looking at, it looks like it is, it includes parts of I-5. So that means those gas stations not operating. That means that Starbucks you stop for a coffee, not going to work. So unless they have generators, right? So it's important to know where your route is tomorrow for your work, for what you have to do tomorrow, because again, this is going to impact a lot when it comes to traffic, businesses, schools, even, again, we're keeping a list updated online of what schools are closing too.
And now's the time to get ready. One thing that we have been talking to people about is generators. If you don't have a generator, we learned recently that you can actually rent a lot of generators. And now's the time to get on that, because right now people are still getting prepared. Perhaps you still have an opportunity to do that. Just make sure that if you do have a generator, that you're not using it in your home. Make sure that it's in a well-ventilated area. They produce carbon monoxide just like any other appliance in your home if it's not well vented. So you want to make sure that's the case. They do have some generators these days which are battery operated, and that solves your problem there. But there are also a lot of people in our area who do have medical conditions who need to make sure that they know where they're going in order to avoid this area in case they should have some sort of fire danger and their power shut off.
And Justin Renberg is asking if Jackson is going to be included in this. If we could zoom in to Jackson and double check for Justin, that'd be great. Obviously, we're doing this because, yeah, it looks like Jackson is included in this. So that blue shaded area right there is going to be, yeah, that's where our little cursor's over, Jackson. So Jackson is included in this power shutoff for you. Let's see who was asking about that, Justin. Again, this is widespread. This is a lot of people here we're talking about. The shutoffs have not started, but they could start as early as midnight tonight. Again, we just got that update from the San Francisco Chronicle reporting that the Bay Area blackout is not going to happen until around noon. So that's good news. Some people will have their morning still with their power. But again, if you are in any of these areas shaded blue, you are included in the power shutoffs according to PG&E's website.
And we always tell you that it's a possibility. Well, like Madison said, right now, if you're in one of these 34 counties, it's your reality. no longer a possibility, and this is something that we're seeing more and more of. Of course, PG&E has been in court recently, and so they want to make sure that that power is shut off to avoid any potential fire in those areas. And you want to make sure that you're on top of it right now. You can see what's on your screen right now. If you're in any of those areas, it is definitely possible. Now, if you could have your power shut off, what you want to do is make sure that you're on it. You want to confirm or update that your contact information is current with PG&E. You want to create a safety plan for your family and your pets. Perhaps you haven't already. Now's the time. Prepare an emergency kit that includes some food and some water. And as we've been telling you, this could last up to 5 days, maybe even longer. So you want to make sure that you have enough. Keep your phones and devices charged as much as you possibly can, and really anything that you might need in that amount of time. If you have a generator, make sure it works properly. Learn how to manually open your garage. A lot of people forget or don't know how to do that. There's usually a cord that you can pull which detaches it. Keep a radio nearby and keep cash on hand. A lot of people, rely heavily on their credit cards, but you're going to want cash if the power is out for an extended period of time, and you're going to want a full tank of gas because you never know where you're going to need to travel at that moment in time, and you want to be ready.
Also, too, a lot of talk about water conservation here when it comes to the power shutoffs, because in some counties like Calaveras County, more than 23,000 PG&E customers are going to see their power shut off. And well, they're also being asked to conserve water as well. So Lena Howland is explaining why.
In the hills of Calaveras County, surrounded by lush, beautiful trees, homes are prone to wildfires.
We got to be prepared for anything here.
As the county and thousands of other homeowners across our region prepare for a PG&E power shutoff because of hot, dry, and windy conditions that could last for up to 5 days, the county's water district is desperately trying to get this message out there. If your power is shut off, conserve your water.
Obviously, without electricity, you're going to rely on backup generation. So if the homeowners don't have backup generation, those pumps aren't going to function.
This water district has spent months preparing, strategically placing backup generators like this one across the area. But in the event that one of these fails, they say it is critical to conserve your water. They're recommending no extra use of water, no washing cars or filling up pools. They're also urging customers to turn off their landscaping systems, take only short showers, and flush the toilet only when necessary. They say wastewater is their biggest concern, coming from showers, washing dishes, dishwashers, laundry machines, and toilets. So if their backup generators fail, it's possible that waste could back up into your home or even into the street in your neighborhood.
That could be a significant impact to the community. So we do everything to avoid that, but we need the help of the community to pressure off of those facilities.
Planned blackout, the water district will to mobilize immediately. Another portable generator into the neighborhood or send a mechanic right away. But conserving water is one thing you can do now to help them in the long run.
So the more that people conserve water, the less water that would be in that system. It buys us a little bit of time in the event of failures and takes some pressure off of those facilities.
That was Lena Howland in Calaveras County. So Vacaville is warning their water service could also be impacted by these shutoffs. They say that they're actively taking measures to make sure that the water is available. However, it's extremely important that everyone conserve water in the event that the shutoff extends beyond a few days. So our Becker Haberger was in Solano County tonight, and we'll have more updates on this concern on Late News Tonight. If you're in Solano County, we'll be opening community resource centers at the following locations: Mission Church at 6391 Leisuretown Road, Vacaville, and Six Flags Discovery Kingdom at 1001 Fairgrounds Drive. Vallejo beginning tomorrow from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. And these locations offer restrooms, bottled water, electronic device charging, and air-conditioned seating. But each of those is only equipped for about 100 people. So if
Right.
you're in a county where there's a lot of people who are needing to make use of those resources, you want to make sure that you get out early.
Right, and we do have a full list of all the community areas where you can go tomorrow if you need to charge, if you need to just cool off, if you need to do whatever you need if you don't have power. We have a whole list of where those areas are on our website at abc10.com as well. We do have so many of you asking about areas that you live in, and we totally hear you. We're going to check those out now. If we can go back to that map really quick to kind of zoom in. Let's start, see, we have a couple people asking about, oh my goodness, a lot. So let's start with, we just got someone asking about Fairfield. If we can zoom in on Fairfield for Sabrina, we can go check and see if that is an area that's going to be impacted. We also had someone asking about Vacaville, close to Fairfield, obviously. Our Becca Habecker here, she talked to the sheriff who said that east of Vacaville should be okay, but some parts are included, as well as some parts of Fairfield too. Again, this is going to impact traveling in the morning too. If you're heading to the Bay Area, it's really important to take note of this. What areas are going to be impacted? If you'd like to see yourself, we do not mind zooming into each city and letting you. And if you would like to see it for yourself, if you want to send it to your mom, your brother, your husband, your wife, text 916-321-3310. Text the word power to that number, 916-321-3310, and we'll send you the map that you can zoom in on yourself and see what areas are going to be impacted in terms of where you work, where you live, where your kids go to school.
Samisi is asking about East Palo Alto, so I don't know if we can zoom in right there to find out, but of course, a lot of people are expecting that their area could be partially covered, entirely, and we just want to remind you that these areas are in flux at all times. We're waiting to see Palo Alto is clear, is what I'm hearing right now. And you just want to make sure that you keep updated on these. Of course, as we've been telling you, the PG&E website has been very difficult for a lot of people. We've been trying to log on ourselves. And it just so many people are trying to find the answers right now for their particular area,
Right.
As we can tell by all of the questions that you guys are having about your particular area.
And there's a lot of people wondering about the Bay Area. We did, if you are just now tuning in, we did just hear that the blackout for the Bay Area won't happen until noon, according to the San Francisco Chronicle. So again, there's a lot of areas here shaded in blue. You're taking a look at, kind of close to the Palo Alto area, San Jose area, and most of these areas are impacted as you're taking a look. But the blackout, according to San Francisco Chronicle, won't happen until noon.
Right. I've seen a number of people also ask about Burlingame. And we'll try to find out the latest for you. And you can see a lot of the areas around the Bay Area are affected. It seems if you're right next to the water, perhaps it's a little less so, but certainly if you are on the east side of the city, you do have a fair amount of affected areas. We are taking a look for you right now, just a little bit closer of a look. Burlingame is clear at this moment in time, so keep checking on that one, but for now, it looks like it's all right.
Yeah, and we are having a couple more people ask about Yuba County. If we could, just zoom out and head on over to Yuba County, take a closer look at that area as well. Again, you're looking at really a lot to the right there and a lot to the left. The valley pretty much clear, and then we're talking about Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, but parts of the foothill. Then you go over towards the Bay Area. That's really where we're seeing the shaded areas tonight.
And we did know, we've had some warning for quite a bit of time that anyone in the foothills of the Sierra is at risk in those places. And what we're seeing right now is PG&E, of course, is confirming that almost all of that area is going to be impacted. Power outages are possible in over 34 counties, but a lot of them you can see there along the Sierra. You just want to make sure that if you are in one of those areas that you already have a route, already have a plan, already make sure that you have backup water and food in case anything should happen. And by all means, if you have a medical condition, make sure that you reach out to people who you can go stay with for at least a few days until all this ends. But what we're hearing right now is it could be up to 5 days, even if the wind event was over really quickly. There's still that amount of time that PG&E needs to go in, make sure that all those lines are clear before they can give you the green light and say, you know, and turn your power back on. So you got to keep that in mind.
And Rachel, if we can zoom into Gridley, Jill Sorensen is asking about Gridley. She gave us her zip code, but I'm not sure if we're able to zoom in terms of zip codes, but we will try our best to see if Gridley is included in this, and we'll let you know. But again, a lot of you are not able to access the PG&E website, the map where you can type in your address. You can see if you're included in this possible shutoff or probable shutoff rather. So Gridley, according to this map, is clear. But again, you can just see it looks like to the east there, maybe the northeast, there is a couple areas that are shaded blue. So that's going to be an area where power will be shut off, according to PG&E's website. But the city of Gridley, it's clear.
All right.
Clear tonight.
I'm just reading now that Kathy England is saying that earlier they said Woodland would not be having power shut off, and now it says yes. We'll work to confirm that for you, but you know, a lot of these places, like we've been saying, are in constant motion. You don't know what's going to happen based on how the weather changes, and you know, PG&E's maps are being updated, but we're trying to find. What I'm hearing right now is that Woodland is clear at this point in time. So, Kathy, if you've been told otherwise, right now it is clear, and you can rest assured of that for the time being.
And again, we are keeping all of this information up to date on our website, abc10.com. That's where you can find the latest information about these shutoffs, which schools are going to be impacted, which businesses we are learning them. Many do have generators. You know, just my personal experience over the weekend, I was in Mammoth where there was a power shutoff as well. They were on the Edison grid, so a different power company in California. But they shut off power because of high fire danger and winds as well. And it was very, very windy. But the main Safeway, the Vons in Southern California in the Mammoth area, was open. Pitch black. We were not able to see literally anything inside, but they had a generator. That's what was allowing them to stay open and operated. But gas stations, if they're included in this, those will not be functioning properly. So, you know, getting cash out right now is going to be your best bet in terms of paying for certain things that you normally would pay for with your card. Some gas stations could have gas readily available in kind of a manual situation where they really just do it old school and fill up your car that way, and you pay them $20 in cash and whatnot. But that's going to be the situation for a lot of people with gas stations and food, grocery stores too. Make sure to have cash. Make sure to have your phones charged. They should be charging right now.
Yeah, because 5 days could be an emergency for a lot of people. You just aren't used to living that way. We depend on so many different devices to keep us running, to keep us informed, and those could all be offline for up to 5 days. And, you know, it's largely going to be contingent upon the weather. So why don't we check in with Monica right now and see what she's tracking for the week ahead.
All right, winds are still out of the south to southwest. They're not terribly strong as well. Currently only about 5 miles per hour in the valley, 21 miles per hour winds for Fairfield. So this is getting ahead of the windstorm that we're about to enter in the next 12 to 24 hours. In the next couple of hours, look how things start to change. We start to see a directional change. These will be out of the north to northwest. So now they're coming from the north and west and driving their way through the valley. Again, not particularly strong tomorrow morning for the morning commute at 7 a.m. at about 10 to 15 miles per hour. Something to make of note as I start to advance this map is notice the color contours, how they're starting to shift here. You're noticing that we're starting to see a little bit more yellow and orange over towards the west side of the valley. Within just a 3-hour span from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m., look at how those contours start to get much deeper, especially on the west side of the valley, where we're starting to see winds closer to about 25 to 30 miles per hour. Our wind advisory will be in effect. Red flag warning will be in effect. That's going to be the area that is going to be dealing with the strongest winds early tomorrow. Then as we make our way through the day and overnight Wednesday into early Thursday, that's when everything starts to just blow up here. You can see that we've got color contours all over the map, especially through the Sierra foothills up towards some of the higher Sierra elevations and then over towards the East Bay area as well. In particular, those hills right through the coastal range. That's going to be an area we're going to be watching very closely. All right, for the valley, still for the west side of the valley, but we're starting to see a little bit of relief here towards Colusa County and parts of Yolo County, but in general, it's still going to be quite breezy. This area right here between the 80-50 corridor north of Highway 50, just to the north of I-80, we're seeing some focus areas there that we could see some very bad wind event here. That would mean travel is going to be tough over the passes. Might find travel delays there, not to mention the risk of fire, obviously, with anything that would spark there. It would be heading downhill. Just to give you a directional idea of where those fires would potentially head, with the wind direction coming out of the east, that means winds are driving their way west. That'll be true as well as we start to look at these East Bay hills. All right, now let's move our way through the afternoon. Here we are Thursday at 10 a.m. Now we're starting to get a little bit more into that eastern Bay event going on, especially around Santa Rosa, just to the north of Santa Rosa, seeing a very concentrated area there. At that point, all the models are forecasting anywhere from about 55 to 65 plus mile per hour winds Thursday morning, and that will continue at least until about noon. Everything starts to back off at that point. Still have those north to northwest winds, but one of the key factors here is just because the winds start to back off, PG&E has said could be a couple more days until we get everything secure and make sure that nothing sparked, there's nothing going on. Winds will still be 10 miles per hour to 15 miles per hour at that point. So here's the red flag warning. 5 a.m. tomorrow, that's when this starts up, and it lasts until 5 o'clock in the afternoon on Thursday, with gusty winds, low humidity, includes all or at least almost all of the Bay Area, all the way north to Redding, south through the northern San Joaquin Valley, the Gold Country, and into the Sierra as well. Now, there are some areas that won't be under that warning all the way through that period, but again, it's going to be a fluctuating situation. You saw how each region will have different times when those winds will be most problematic. Strong wind event with our wind advisory in place Wednesday and Thursday, strongest Wednesday overnight and highest over the exposed ridges. So if anything sparks up top, it's going to move downhill again off to the west in general. Now, there will be some erratic gusts in there, so we could always see the potential for some erratic spread. We saw that 2 years ago with the North Bay fires when we had embers flying because of winds, and we would see these spot fires starting up. Okay, here's the setup right now. High pressure exiting somewhat off to the west. That's what's brought the heat the past couple of days. We've been close to 90 degrees for both Monday and Tuesday. Now we see this low driving its way out of the north. We'll actually be in for some cooler weather for tomorrow. But did you see those clouds this afternoon? That was all part of that low pressure system moving in. Didn't deliver the rain or snow or anything like that, but it will give us some cooler weather. But again, those strong north winds will develop. Okay. Now we start to see a bit of a shift Wednesday night into Thursday. That's when we get those offshore winds. These are very dangerous winds, especially this time of year for a number of reasons, but they generally can accelerate the growth of a fire. This is a look at the wildfire danger. Here's all the areas that we're going to be tracking: Redding, Sacramento, Bakersfield, Los Angeles, Santa Rosa, South Lake Tahoe, even Santa Cruz, the Santa Cruz Mountains also under that red flag warning. And each of these areas periodically will be hitting those high points of the biggest fire danger. This is going to be Wednesday, tomorrow afternoon. We're looking at Sacramento being in that 6th category. Really at the top end of the high range, starting to edge a little bit closer to the extreme range. All right, fast forwarding into Thursday morning, still seeing some pretty high fire danger for Northern California, particularly Sacramento northward through Redding. Also Santa Rosa getting in on the action there into our Thursday forecast. But look at how the shift starts to happen later in the day on Thursday. All of a sudden we start seeing more of that fire growth potential in Southern California, because this is an entire statewide event. This setup will be happening all throughout the state here with these dangerous offshore winds. They're called Santa Ana winds down to the south. Up to the north, they're called, in general, Diablo winds. And what happens is we get these winds coming from the higher elevation, pushing their way down to lower elevations. So 2 years ago, that's what happened with the North Bay fires for Sonoma and Napa counties, with the Tubbs, Nuns, Atlas, and Pocket fires, all starting with those strong offshore wind events. North to northeast winds, they accelerate through the hills. They're dry and warm winds, and it ends up with explosive fire growth. During that big North Bay event, we had gusts about 70 to 80 miles per hour. Again, going back to what some of the models are forecasting, very close to what we saw 2 years ago today, when folks were going around knocking on doors, get out, get out. Madison, Mike.
Very serious situation. We want to make sure we are also updating you on the fire that's burning near Yosemite National Park tonight. We do have an update. The Bryceburg fire that's burning off of Highway 140 near the Mariposa County town of Bryceburg now burned over 2,000 acres, and it started on Sunday.
It's only about 10% contained right now, and fire crews are working fast to try to contain the fire. There are evacuations. The entrance to Yosemite National Park on Route 140 is also closed because of the fire.
And people in San Joaquin County are also feeling the effects of the smoke from this fire. Valley Air District officials have issued a health cautionary statement for the entire San Joaquin Valley, saying that smoke impacts are expected to continue until the Bryceburg fire is out.
Yeah, scary to think about that, and scary to think about all the people that are potentially affected by this power shutoff.
Right.
800,000 customers are saying at this point in time in 34 different counties, affecting a whole swath of area. And a lot of people are saying that they're having trouble with that PG&E website, trying to figure out if they're affected.
So you're now taking a look at the map of the power shutoffs, which areas that are shaded here are going to be part of this power shutoff that is going to start as soon as midnight tonight. Again, we are continuing to update this and update you all about which areas are impacted here. We've had several people asking about certain areas. It looks like Stacy's asking about Roseville. Any idea how long Roseville will be without power? Well, you know, we don't know, Stacy, to be honest. At this point, PG&E does not know. Roseville proper, the city is clear, so that's a good update there. But we are asking PG&E these questions. At the moment, we don't know how long power is going to be shut off in these areas because, again, it's a fluid situation. But of course, we do know that it could potentially be 5 days because once the power gets shut off, then they turn it back on. Then they have to check every single inch of the lines to make sure that nothing was damaged or destroyed during this wind event that then could cause a fire.
Right. Now, I also wanted to check on a location for Tracy. She's asking about Diamond Springs. She wants to know if that area is clear at this moment in time. As Madison was saying, you know, a lot of people are wondering why wind could cause this much potential damage. And what we do know is that these areas have trees and other vegetation that's near these power lines. There's also the potential of two power lines hitting each other. And anytime that has the possibility of happening during a wind event, something's blown into the line is blown against another line, there's the potential for fire. And that's really what's at most concern at this point in time. So yes, it might not sound like wind would be that scary, but what we know is that especially at this point in time, after a long summer where all that vegetation's been drying out, this fire can spark very quickly. And especially with wind, if it sparks and blows that fire, it can spread very fast. So we were just trying to find Diamond Springs for you, and power will be shut off as we are hearing at this point in time. So Tracy, just make sure that you know that for your area.
And Tommy just asked about Manteca. Manteca is not included in this list, in this power shutoff map that you're seeing here right now. Manteca is in the clear. We're zooming in on that area for you so you can just double check with us. And you know, again, a lot of you are not able to access this map. So if you have certain areas you would like us to double check for you, we obviously will do that, no problem. But if you would like to have the map sent to you, we keep continuing to refresh it to see if it's working on our end. But you can text POWER to 916-321-3310 and we'll send you a link to the map so you can zoom in yourself, check it out, send it to whoever you need to send it to make sure that they're in the know as well. Because again, these shutoffs, some of them could happen as early as midnight tonight. That is just a couple hours away.
And we just want to remind everybody that even if you're not in one of these power shutoff areas, likely you are in an area that has a red flag warning. And that means you need to take this very seriously. As we have said a few different times on this program, If you have a red flag warning, you should treat it like you have a tornado warning. Make sure that you are prepared in an instance like that. Make sure you know where to go. Make sure that you have your devices charged and ready to take with you if you do need to flee. Also, make sure that you have the ability to exit your house without power, which means make sure that your garage door can be operated manually. Make sure that your car is full of, has a full tank of gas. And you probably want to make sure also that you have cash on hand. A lot of people think that maybe $100 bills will work, but actually you want small bills if at all possible. Another thing that people don't think about until a moment like you need to confirm or update your contact information with PG&E. So if they're trying to get a hold of you to let you know that you're part of this power shutoff, well, if they don't have your latest contact information, that's difficult to do. Also, if you haven't thought about it yet, you might want to consider making that safety plan right now for your family and your pets. Don't forget your pets. A lot of people do kind of not think of them when they're making these plans, but they are part of your family, and I know I would be devastated if anything happened to my animal. Also, prepare an emergency kit. You want to make sure that you have enough food and water to last you, and now that they're saying that this could last up to 5 days if you're in one of these affected areas, you need to make sure that you have enough. Keep your phones and devices charged. Can't emphasize that enough. If you have portable power packs, you might want to make sure that that's juiced up as well. We've also been talking about having a generator. If you have a generator, you want to make sure that it's working properly. You want to make sure that it's outside. You don't want to give yourself any sort of carbon monoxide poisoning, which could be a problem in an area like this.
Rachel, is there any way we can go back to that map? We just have a couple people asking about Los Banos and seeing if that is an area that's going to be affected, also asking for Lodi too. So we're checking really quick for you all. Just give us Los Banos really quick, if we can zoom in and check that area. And then we also have people asking about Lodi, San Lorenzo. It looks like, so we're checking right now for you all. I know there's maybe 4 of you asking about those areas. So yeah, and Amelia, yes, the PG&E website is down at the moment. So the map that you all are looking, Los Banos is clear according to this map. So there you have it. East Palo Alto is included in this. Tracy, we have another. Oh, Palo Alto is clear. My bad. I apologize about that. Palo Alto is clear. Tracy is another one we're asking about. So we'll zoom in over there. So south of Tracy has outages planned at the moment, but Tracy, it looks like Tracy proper is in the clear.
All right, and a lot of you want to know if your kids have school tomorrow. Of course, if you're in one of these areas, the chance that your power could be shut off is pretty high. We have heard that some school districts are still planning on having school tomorrow. Even if the power got shut off, they say that they have backup plans just in case. But if you want to know the full list of schools that we have at this moment in time, you can head to our website, abc10.com. We have the full list of schools that are planning to be closed on there. And if you're looking for any information on this power outage right now, you can always text us. The number for that is
916-321-3310.
Thank you, Madison. And we'll send you the latest information that you need for all of these power shutoffs.
And we do have some people asking about Fremont. That area is in. So we're going to check that really quick. But again, the Bay Area shutoffs aren't happening according to San Francisco Chronicle. Sorry, really quick, I forgot. They said that the power shutoffs will not be happening there until noon tomorrow in the Bay Area. So taking a look at Fremont now to check for you all who are wondering about that area. There are so many people wondering about where you live, and we absolutely understand. We're going to all of them answered as much as the main cities, in our area. A lot of people. So Stockton, Sacramento, all clear. All 3 of those cities are clear. We're taking a look at Fremont now, so it really just depends where you live in the Fremont area. As you can see, the blue shaded areas, above where the city is, that is part of the PG&E power shutoffs. That could happen as early as midnight.
Yeah, and a lot of people want to know, is this a definitive map? No, it's not. It's constantly in flux, so you just want to make sure that you keep checking. As you can see, some of these areas overlap. You can see that there's like little tiny quadrants where there isn't any, but that could change. So you just want to make sure that you are ready to go everywhere pretty much that you can see on this map is actually under a red flag warning, which means you need to take it extremely seriously. Make sure that you are ready to go. Make sure that, especially if you have any sort of medical needs that require power, you want to be in contact with someone who you can go stay with. And, you know, it's not a for sure thing right now, but maybe just go. Plan to stay there for the next 5 days. Make sure that this isn't a risk for you. We also don't know how far this will affect other parts, other services. We have heard from Caltrans that it could potentially affect some of the tunnels in the area. The one system in the Bay Area, I haven't heard anything that there shouldn't be any closures, is the BART system at this point in time. But you want to make sure that you have a way to exit now, especially if you have a medical condition.
And now with these PG&E shutoffs happening, PG&E was actually in federal court today because of this plan. The power monopoly was found guilty of crimes after the 2010 San Bruno gas explosion, which killed 8 people.
Yeah, and keep in mind, PG&E is under court supervision during its 5-year sentence of probation. So ABC 10's Brendan Rittiman explains the judge put a lot of pressure on PG&E to shut off the power during windstorms.
The reason for all these massive shutoff plans is simple. PG&E's power grid can't be safe in bad wind. All you got to do is look at the last 2 years when state investigators say PG&E power equipment sparked fires that killed 107 people, including the Camp Fire, the deadliest and most destructive wildfire in state history. The judge handling PG&E's probation almost ordered the company to shut off power lines whenever the wind speed got to a certain level. He didn't do that. Instead, the judge left it up to PG&E to decide when to cut the power. PG&E says it'll factor in the weather, the dryness of fuels, and how many people live in a given area before making the call. Meantime, the company's inspecting its whole power grid and says it's fixing problems with the lines and also trimming back the trees. But PG&E's court-ordered monitor did a whole bunch of surprise inspections this summer to double-check the company's safety work. Those inspections flagged hundreds of problems with the tree trimming job and with PG&E's records to keep track of it. PG&E says it's now making more improvements. The judge said today he looks forward to seeing how this week's shutoff plan plays out. The judge says the goal is for PG&E's power grid to someday be trustworthy enough to, quote, operate safely 100% of the time. But the judge's views are, quote, more prudent than leaving the power on and burning down an entire county.
All right, a lot of you are reaching out asking if your area is affected, so we're going to take a look at the map again. In the meantime, I just wanted to also tell you that a lot of people have also asked about Sacramento and West Sacramento. Right now, they're not under a potential power outage warning, but at the same time, you are also under a red flag warning, so you have to keep that in mind. Also want to let people know if you do have SMUD, you are exempt from these possible power shutoffs. And one place that a lot of people were asking about was Oroville. So
yeah, let's go to Oroville. Let's look up there in Butte County to check out if Oroville is included in this. And yes, it does look like it is. So there's Lake Oroville. You're seeing that right there. And then to the right would be where the power shutoff shaded area would be. So yeah, Oroville is included. Not all of it, obviously. You're seeing really kind of the wide range area in the blue. That's going to be part of this power shutoff as early as midnight. We have not heard from Butte County officials at what time the power shutoffs will happen up there yet. So of course, once we know more of the time frame for you all, we will be sure to let you know, because I know that's top of mind, right? You're wondering, do I have a couple more hours? Do I have until tomorrow night? A lot of people wondering when and how long the power is going to be shut off to.
Right. We know that the weather conditions don't really start until tomorrow night, but at the same time, most likely PG&E is trying to get ahead of exactly that. So you don't know when your power is going to be shut off. I just wanted to check on a couple other people who are asking about Danville. Let's take a look and see if that area is affected by the potential power shutoffs. Of course, a lot of these people need to keep in mind that this is what we're seeing at this moment in time, and things could change, especially as the weather changes. We're going to keep tracking that and see what PG&E has, their latest updates. But you need to make sure that you have a plan ready in case you do have your power shut off.
Right. I'm going to go grab one thing really quick. I'll be right back.
Yeah, so right now we are taking a look to see if Danville is potentially affected. it seems to be all clear at this point in time. So if you were concerned about that area, now you know. Also wondering about Lathrop, if we can take a look at that. A lot of people have a lot of similar questions. So a lot of people have been asking about places like Modesto, which we have come to understand Lathrop is also clear. And as I was saying, Modesto's clear. A lot of people asking about Vacaville. It seems you're fine if you're on the east side of Vacaville, but there is some places here and there where it does seem it would be affected by a potential power shutoff. So
we also have people asking about American Canyon and Napa. Napa is absolutely included in this. American Canyon is where that fire was just a couple days ago over the weekend, right? Yeah, so we're going to go take a look again just to show you really the widespread area over in Napa. But again, it really does depend where you are in Napa. So American Canyon and Napa, we're taking a look of where these power shutoffs could happen starting tomorrow.
Yeah, and the areas that are most affected, if you are looking at a map right now, the East Bay heavily affected. Anywhere along the Sierra foothills is heavily affected, and it really just it's pretty spotty at this point in time. We know that there are 34 counties that are affected and 800,000 potential customers. Perhaps over 2 million people are impacted by these potential power shutoffs. We do know that when they could start varies pretty dramatically. We've heard midnight, we've heard noon, and we've heard different times tomorrow. So all of these people are trying to figure out what to do at this point in time with this new information that they could potentially lose power. All of these areas are subject to a red flag warning at this point in time. So if you are in these areas, there's a lot of things that you should know.
We really want to make sure you guys are up to speed in terms of what you can do before an outage happens, because this could really help you in terms of dealing with having the lights go off at a moment's notice. So really PG&E would like for you to confirm and update your contact information with them, and then create a safety plan for your family, your pets, including people who may need certain health conditions and whatnot there, and prepare an emergency kit that includes food and water. Then keep your phones and devices charged. That is very important. If you have a properly, and learn how to manually open your garage. I know Monica was saying that maybe some people got stuck trying to leave their home and were able to because their car was in the garage. So learn how to open that manually. Also keep a battery powered radio nearby, and keep full tank of gas. The cash on hand is something that I ran into just this past weekend. Really important to have cash on you in terms of a power outage, because that's how you are going to be able to pay for things and continue to go about your day as much as you can.
Yeah, that's right. We've all gotten quite complacent, especially in the past few years. We've all gotten really used to using our cards every opportunity that we can, but cash will take care of the problem when you are in a situation like this. Also, a lot of people have forgotten, that we need to plan just in case there's just the worst case scenario. We've had it pretty good for pretty long, and they say that changing temperatures, climate change, those sorts of things mean that this is the new normal. And what we're seeing right now is a response to years now that we've had pretty large fires in our area. And these power shutoffs are an attempt to avoid potentially large catastrophic fires. So if you live in any of these areas, you want to take that advice that Madison just gave you and make sure that you are set up in case you do have to have your power shut off. Right now, it lasts up to 5 days, and that is a potential emergency for a lot of people.
Absolutely. This is going to impact so many of you, and we are here to help. Of course, a lot of you are not able to access work on that. Coming up tonight on Late News Tonight at 11, we are going to take a quick break from our digital programming here because we do need to get ready for our show coming up at 11, but we'll have much more information for you and the updated forecast as well as the power outage maps.
Have a great night, and we'll see you back here at 11 o'clock for Late News Tonight. In the meantime, text us POWER and we'll send you the latest information.